told reporters he had, quote, absolutely no clue how his mother and father are going to dig themselves out of the $35,000 of student loan debt they incurred to pay for his college education.
I mean, this is going to be really hard on my parents. When I was in college, I just assumed that, they would pay off my student loans within a few years of me graduating. But I never realized how expensive college is going to be for them.
Wallace, who graduated with a film studies degree in 2012 and has since had 2 unpaid internships, told reporters that from the way prevailing interest rates are trending, his parents could easily be paying off his debt for the next quarter century.
They're going to be paying for the rest of their lives. And on top of it all, they have to help me out with my rent, too. I mean, it sucks. It really, really sucks.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Talk Live, it's talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is that number for you to get in on the conversation with us. 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie,
Jay Noon,
and Joa.
And we have a lot to talk about tonight. There is a really terrible story, in my opinion, out of New York from ABC News about Uber and Lyft. Jay also wanted to talk more about the main shooter from the state, Maine, Robert Card, and what the military knew about him before he went and shot up a bowling alley, was it?
Bowling alley in a bar is what this report said.
Yeah, so we've got that story here. You can go ahead and start reading it if you want. It's from thedailymail.com.
What this says is newly released text messages reveal the extent to which Maine cops were warned about mass shooter Robert Card by his fellow service members in the Army Reserves, who reported their fear 6 weeks prior to the attack that killed 18 people.
Wow, so people that worked with him, like his friends. I thought it was maybe some kind of group that was investigating him, but instead it's people who worked with him probably.
Yeah, one of the guys says that he loves him and wants to help him, but doesn't know how.
That sucks.
In September, Army reservists were so concerned that Card 40 was about to kill that they told each other to change the passcode to the entrance gate of their base in Saco and warned each other to be armed in his presence.
Whoa.
Change the passcode to the unit gate and be armed if Sergeant First Class does not arrive. Please. I believe he's messed up in the head. And this is quoting these text messages. And threatened the unit, the other unit and other places. I love him to death, but I do not know how to help him. And if he refuses to get help, I'm afraid he's going to F up his life hearing the things he thinks he heard.
Oh, no. So he's probably hearing voices.
One text by Sergeant Hogsden. And then it's got the whole list of the texts.
Someone says here, I believe he's going to snap and do a mass shooting. But were they just saying this to each other, or were they telling the police this?
We'll get into it. These text messages sent by an Army reservist sergeant to his supervisor in September reveal that the extent to which there were concerns about Robert Card. The supervisor called police, who issued an alert on Card, but nothing was done to bring him in or strip him of his weapon. So I'm going to pause right here for a minute on reading this. A few comments here. So when the police get, these calls, and the FBI gets, these calls that people are doing acting, weird, or they're going to be getting crazy, kind of like there was this kid somewhere around Chicago, a year ago or a year and a half, he shot up a bunch of people from the top of a building. And all of a sudden he had this really nice, semi-automatic rifle that was, a few $1,000s. He had several $1,000s worth of gear, but had no money. So somebody like bought him all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it like his mother, had made reports. I can't remember, but there's often with these, mass shootings, we're finding that there are reports, and it seems like it's pretty convenient for law enforcement to just sort of ignore them, especially for, the gun grabber side, these leftist Democrats and the Republicans, they thirst for power just as much as the Democrats, and all statists are bad as far as I'm concerned, because they all just, lust for this power and don't really care how they get it. And by sort of allowing these things to happen, then they can come forth and be like, hey, we need more laws. We need red flag laws. We need, this ability, because they don't have an opportunity to like demand these kind of things, from the voters or from the people or from the legislature until these, mass, casualty events happen.
Well, so do you think that sometimes these people get reported and then the cops are conveniently handed a perfect scapegoat and they can even maybe arm him, like this guy you're talking about from Chicago, and then say, oh, look, it wasn't us. It was this crazy guy.
Yeah.
More like they knew it was going to happen. So, yeah, let's just let him keep his gun.
Or they
in
help
this
it, or
situation.
they help it along.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So let's not let an opportunity go to waste, right?
So Alex Jones reported years ago there was a 1993 there was the World Trade Center bombing, and this guy who was basically did that bombing was totally helped and paid by like FBI informants to like do this, and this was declassified years later. But even like you got...
Wasn't that... Sorry, those bombs didn't end up going off. They were kind of, quote-unquote, stopped.
Yep. And
One did go off.
I think there was an explosion.
Huge, like 6 floors of their
Whoa,
parking garage were
but no one
blown
died?
out. It was like this huge
This is World
circular...
Trade Center you're talking about?
Yeah, and
or
underground.
Oklahoma City?
No, World Trade Center.
Okay.
There was a bombing before the...
93.
Right? And this was... It blew like 6 levels of the parking garage. Like, it looked like a big, like, circular... sort of like a bomb went off, and yeah, it was a bomb. But like the thing is, I don't know the full details of that, but I believe that yes, they helped him build it, but they didn't give him like the final component. But I believe that's how it went down, and he finished the component.
Yeah. So
right?
yeah, and so these like patsies are like helped along. These crazy people are helped along. It's pretty convenient how they got military ties, CIA ties. I mean, look at Timothy McVeigh. Timothy McVeigh was an Oklahoma City guy who blew up the Oklahoma City FBI building or federal building or whatever it is, and there was like a daycare in there with a bunch of kids. But of course, and then there's claims that building was like wired, days before or weeks before with explosives. Essentially, from what I understand, like the Air Force has like a explosive investigation unit or some wing in the military, and they tried to like replicate this alleged like fertilizer diesel fuel type concoction that Timothy McVeigh allegedly put in a U-Haul van, I guess, and
Ryder truck
or whatever, some kind of rental van, and they like tried to like replicate like this explosion happening, and it wouldn't do anything because basically it was and one of my really good friends, Silver Dave, was a military special forces demolitions expert, and he was talking about this Oklahoma City thing. I was like, there's no way that could have been, from the truck outside, the way that damage happened. The building had to be
Exploded from the inside.
Exploded from like columns, and inside he's a demolition guy. And kind of like what, 9/11, there's, no way that like the building just fell down on its own
it was
footprint.
like free falling.
Also, that building was designed to take a bomb hit, I believe.
Which one?
The Oklahoma City bomb.
Well, we do
Bombing,
have
building,
a
whatever.
caller, and it's an open phones talk show. So I'm going to bring Sam from Ohio on. What's on your mind, Sam?
I was just curious what happened to Ian.
Oh, so Ian went to prison, and he got sentenced for 8 years.
Well, at least it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
That's true, but
It's pretty bad. But
it's pretty bad. But I mean, I was happy that it wasn't like 20 years or something, because 8 years means like if he doesn't win appeal, maybe he'll serve like 5. But if it was 20 years, it would be like, oh, if he doesn't win appeal, he's still gonna serve like 18 or something. So.
But specifically, I remember him saying that he was concerned it would be decades.
Yeah. I mean, for a while, there were a lot more charges, and then one got dropped.
Well, at least he only got 8 years. That's good news.
I think appeal is going to go well, but
Yeah, I hope so too.
At this point, Ian got railroaded.
Yeah.
Is what
Yeah.
happened.
Well, no question there.
Yeah, definitely. Is that all you have for us, Sam?
That's all I had.
thank you, Sam.
Bye.
We have unscreened caller. Unscreened caller, what's on your mind?
Listening to your comments regarding the Muslims in Gaza in relation to Israel.
Was that yesterday or
Must have
something?
been yesterday's show.
Oh, that's possible. That's very possible. 2 points I wanted to make. One, Moses went on Mount Moriah, going back thousands of years, that was Jewish land. Number two,
Somebody
that first point,
going back on a mountain thousands of years ago matters today. Why?
God gave that land to those people. In fact, King David purchased it. Are you aware of that? That he purchased the threshing floor of Arana in the Bible?
Well, who's he? He's some dead person. I
Actually,
still don't know what the point is.
I would say what is the significance into owning land? Is there some magical
Own it forever.
owning of this land that's
No matter
going to
who
cause?
else has lived there for thousands.
I'm just trying to get to the point of it.
Yeah, yes, there is, because in their religion,
Okay.
God has pre-established for eternity. He said, Jerusalem, I will put my name there. And if you zoom out from a satellite and you look at Mount Moriah, they're in even the ridge line is in the shape of Jehovah. In the very vowels of the way you would Yod-He-Vav-He, how do you pronounce his name?
So
His name, he said, I will put my name in Jerusalem. So they're commanded to. So they can disobey their God or take your opinion. That's their options. You want them to take your opinion, some libertarians in New Hampshire that want open borders, or they can obey their eternal God?
How is that even a command? That doesn't even sound like a command. He just said, I'll put my name there.
Obviously, I'm not getting anywhere with doctrinal fact that King David purchased that land, the threshing floor of Arana.
But you're not
So let me
answering
try-
our question
let me
about
try-
that. If we just talk about that one subject, why would it matter that someone purchased land thousands of years ago? Why would that matter today? Like, did he
I can
hand
tell you
it
why
down to
mattered.
his sons every single year and like no one else has ever been in charge of it? No. It was like owned by completely different people, multiple different times.
Sweetheart. The
All right,
Muslim
bye. I don't talk to idiots.
So here's the thing. Well, I had some questions for that guy. So like,
Well, I don't talk to disrespectful people. Like, I don't do this show
Sure.
for no reason. I already do
Okay,
it for
sweetheart.
free. Like, just
So
so
silly.
stupid. Like,
so anyways, when it comes to land ownership, one of the questions I like to ask. So for example, I was in New York State and I got a ticket on the New York Thruway, and the officer on the stand, state trooper, said, "The state of New York owns the New York Thruway." And I said, "Okay, can you produce a deed where the state of New York is a grantee, and there's a signature, a wedding signature from a grantor, a man or a woman, granting the land to the state of New York, in which no such deed exists because
well, God put New York's name on the mountain there, so
well, who's God from what writing?
right.
You know, this thing just saying because God says it doesn't mean it doesn't. It's not valid at all because there are people that believe there's all kinds of gods. There's people that believe the fairies are gods. The Great Spirit, whoever, Muhammad, Jehovah, Jesus. They're all got all these crazy people that get that just totally are wrapped up in a lot of this worship stuff. And I shouldn't say they're all crazy, but some of them are really into it. But
Like him, like the guy who just called. Basically, he's making our point, saying, "Oh well, what are they supposed to do? Disobey their God? Instead, we got to kill people." Like that's all
Yeah.
he's saying. Like
Right,
he's just
like let's just like the logic of what God would want would be peace, right? So
Right.
like if someone if say, okay, we have this beautiful place, Mount Moria, whatever you call it, Moriah, and oh, we got this enemy coming to attack us. Should we kill them? We should fight back? Or would God say, let them have it? Like, or I'm not saying, not defend your lands and that sort of thing. But like, is it really worth risking your culture, your life, your families, like everything about who you people are to die over it? Like, I feel like it's just absurd, a biblical fight for nothing.
Yeah. So does, did King David get a deed from God or whoever, he claims he bought it from? Is there a deed? Is there a chain of custody?
Even if there was, is there today? Like I was saying, did he pass it down to his sons every generation and they, kept control of it?
Right.
Took care of it?
Probably not. But the bottom line is whoever's got the most amount of guns, which is whoever the United States wishes to give all the guns and ammunition and bombs and, weapons of mass destruction. They're all, pretty much produced by the United States all around the world. And so, like, the idea that the United States is, giving all of this money for, like, my entire life. I've been, 40 years. They've just been giving billions of dollars every single year to Israel, which should absolutely not happen at all. I don't like the idea of anybody getting killed on either side. But when it comes to this Palestinian versus Israel thing, what's been my observation my entire life is you have these poor Palestinian people who can't leave their country, who are basically subject to like checkpoints from like Israeli military within Palestine. Like these people can't even move around. This has been this way for decades. And so I've been studying child psychology. Palestine is like the perfect breeding ground because of the way it's controlled, the poverty of the people, the lack of education of the people, the fact that they're blacked out from the rest of the world,
right.
The fact that it is quite literally an open air prison, and to create like this massive extremist, generation, community, collective of very angry, upset boys who are going to grow up, who are growing up to become men, and see that they're like probably not going to have a woman to marry. They're probably not going to have a life. Their life has already been, excruciating hell. So like, if you want to create an enemy, and that's kind of been the thing the entire time. Governments all through history have always had to create and back the enemy so they could have a conflict.
To justify their own side. Right.
To create their own power, to launder money from the taxpayers via fractional reserve banking and via the taxpayers to military industrial complex.
Even if it means sacrificing
industries.
some of their own people. Like if some Israeli people really did die from these attacks from these people from Gaza, and Israel was actually behind the attacks in Gaza, like from a really long time coming, not just like, oh, Israel literally put a Israeli soldier up in the sky. Well, it wouldn't surprise me. That might sound surprising to some people, but it wouldn't surprise me because they don't actually care about quote unquote their people. They care about their power. And so, if they got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, they will.
So if you look at World War II, for example, you look at Germany with the burning of the Reichstag. That was a false flag. That was an inside job to give the then sitting German government more power. If we look at World War II again, and we look at Pearl Harbor. So there's some things that we know about the Japanese invasion on Pearl Harbor. The Japanese were helped out tremendously by American military industrial complex interests to make that happen.
For sure.
One of them being
alerts were ignored, right?
Alerts were ignored. There was ham radio operators are like, hey, this fleet is coming.
Yeah, they knew they were coming. They knew they were coming and not prepared.
There was tons of alerts. And also U.S. Standard Oil, which was John D. Rockefeller Corporation, that had now this is post-prohibition. The purpose of prohibition, making alcohol illegal, was so you couldn't use alcohol as a motor fuel, so you had to buy Rockefeller's petroleum. And so previous to prohibition, if you lived in rural America, your Model A, your Model T, Ford, your tractor, your lamps in your house used alcohol. America was farming with alcohol and traveling with alcohol. In the city, you would buy petroleum, Rockefeller's dirty petroleum. And that's what was, used in the cities, your gasoline, your petrol, your kerosene, whatever. So Rockefeller became extremely powerful, and it was Rockefeller that actually was that gave the fuel to the Japanese fleet to get to to do the attack on Hawaii. And so we look at the Gulf of Tonkin, which there was a U.S. destroyer or U.S. Navy ship was put out in the Gulf of Tonkin, and it was bombed.
Was there actually a ship that got bombed, or what I remember from reading about the Tolkien's? You mentioned this previous show,
yep.
But I thought it was just a made up story. Like no ship actually got sunk.
Well, they claimed a ship got sunk, and there was something out there that they claimed got sunk and destroyed.
Right,
and,
there's the claiming of it.
So that's another thing too. Like you have these so-called terrorist attacks on infrastructure via the internet, and a gasoline pipeline shuts down. So it's really hard for them to say this gasoline pipeline blew up and not show any video.
You mean the Nordstrom, that one?
No. So that one, there's video. It blew up. It shut down.
You mean still the Gulf of Tonkin?
No, this gas pipeline was a couple years ago down in the Carolinas. I think they call it the Tennessee Mountain Connect, whatever. It was a pipeline that went from somewhere in Louisiana up to North Carolinas and Virginia to supply gasoline and diesel fuel to those areas. It was a pipeline and it shut off. And they said it was a cyber attack. Well, the thing is when they say it's a cyber attack, or they say it's swine flu or COVID or whatever, you can't see it. There's no real actual evidence other than
that's a good point.
The people saying it. So when they have these cyber attacks screwed up a bunch of stuff, and this is what they say when they're the food chain thing breaks down. They'll be like, there was a cyber attack. There's no way to really verify there was a cyber attack. For the average guy, there's no video footage of these guys on computers pushing enter and and laughing like a villain, as they do it. The maybe somebody who's a computer techie or understands all this stuff that has clearance and the ability to look into these things and those resources might be able to say there's a cyber attack, but you can't prove that to me.
Then they wouldn't be able to explain it to the normal people who aren't coders. They just can't. They don't have both of those skill sets.
So this constant plausible deniability that they're pushing with their false flags to get things going, government is constantly creating an enemy. So I see Palestine as a place where they have, when I say they, the Western powers, the money changers of the day, so the international banking cartels, all the countries that are are backed by the U.S. dollar essentially, the European Union and all these countries that are getting U.S. munitions all the time, and the U.S. military is there, and these countries are all occupied by U.S. military too. They all have military bases in Germany, and they're all over the place, everywhere. I think we have military bases in 90% of the countries of the world, or something crazy, or 80%. I don't remember the number, but it's always they need to come up with an enemy, and Gaza, that whole area, Palestine, has just been a petri dish. Used by, I believe, the Western governments, the Western financial resources, and a military-industrial complex to create these people who are basically going to have no choice to either starve to death or fight back.
Well, what's the best way to divide people is to attack religions and all. You got Christianity, you got Muslim,
first program,
and Judaism, all epicenter of the origins of right there.
Well, we've got more coming up. It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever's on your mind. More coming up.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says he's working on finding a durable, sustainable peace for Israelis and Palestinians. He made the comments just before boarding a plane to Israel, where he'll meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday. He also said he plans to talk to Israel about concrete steps to minimize danger to civilians. And Blinken said peace was imperative.
We will be talking about how we can set the conditions for a durable, sustainable peace, durable, sustainable security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. We're focused on the day of. We also need to be focused on the day after. And so in conversations that we'll be having through the course of this weekend, I expect you'll see a focus there, and particularly how we can get over time to two states for two peoples, which in our judgment remains the best guarantor and maybe the only guarantor of a secure Jewish and democratic Israel and Palestinians with the state that they're entitled to.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden says 74 American citizens with dual nationality have managed to leave Gaza via the Rafah crossing and entered Egypt. It comes as the health ministry in Gaza, run by Hamas, says more than 9,000 people have been killed since the start of the conflict. FSN Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv has more on the aid situation for civilians stuck in Gaza.
We do know that many nations are sending more aid. There are calls for humanitarian truces, humanitarian pauses, even ceasefires. Just in the last hour or so, the UAE has actually come out to say that it is prepared to treat 1,000 Palestinian children who've been injured in this conflict, but not really providing any further details on when this will happen and how it would be facilitated, whether it could possibly be under this deal that was brokered by Qatar to open the Rafah crossing. So that is yet to be seen.
At the Trump Organization civil fraud trial in New York, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have testified that they had no involvement with documents that the judge has ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two Trump brothers and the former President Donald Trump are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets to secure better loans. FSN's Jody Jacobs reports.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. They have blamed accountants, claiming they are the ones who assembled the financial statements that were used to secure loans and insurance.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number for you to call to get in on the conversation with us. We already have a caller I'm going to get to in a second. But first I've got to tell you about Dash, because this hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash, Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. And a big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn more about Dash. Dash.org. And now, I didn't actually say who I am, so in the studio with you tonight, it's me, Bonnie.
Jay Noon.
And Joa.
But I want to go straight to your phone calls and thoughts. We have Ed in Utah. Ed wanted to call in and talk about the same subject we were talking about, Israel. So what's on your mind, Ed?
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. A few things here. I do want to talk about, you were bringing up the Gulf of Tonkin, and then I'll get to Israel.
Okay.
Just a little fact that a lot of people don't know. The admiral involved in this so-called Gulf of Tonkin was actually the reporting admiral, if you will, was Admiral Morrison. This is the father of Jim Morrison of the Doors.
Whoa.
Isn't that
Really?
very interesting?
Are you serious?
Yes, it is. I'm dead serious. You can check it out. But I throw that in there because of my kind of mantra here about the whole thing with Israel. I'm somebody that's on the far right, if you will. I've talked to you guys before, but I'm sure tracking with you on here. This is where the libertarians and small R Republicans can come together if they're willing to look at the facts. Israel, with the Deir Yassin massacre, took control of Israel, of the Palestine area, when they blew up the King David Hotel in 1946, July. They killed 92 British diplomats. The Stern Gang and the Irgun gun runners and all those people did that. They ran them out, and then they launched this massacre and this scare campaign to take over half of what it was Palestine at the time. And so just kind of rambling along here, moving along, then you have after the Kennedy assassination, a lot did change because Senator Kennedy in the 50s was, for the most part, kind of leading toward the Arab side under the tripartite agreement. But Senator Johnson, Lyndon Baines Johnson, was somebody that Golda Meir had referred to as our little Texas friend. So you can see how things shaped up on the geopolitical at that time. And enter this, 4 years after the Kennedy assassination, you have the USS Liberty. And all the big controlled media right now talking about the Six-Day War in 1967,
right.
And they will not mention June 8th of 67, when the Israelis' brutal attack on the USS Liberty and killed 34 Americans, injured 171. They tried to sink the ship, except that Captain McGonigal kept it from sinking, and as such, he got a Congressional Medal of Honor, not given to him in the front of the White House lawn. No, back of the Naval Shipyard, Captain McGonigal. So when you see all that, and after the Kennedy assassination, how Mideast policy, U.S. Mideast policy changed 180 degrees. And so you start fast forwarding to Ron Paul, who revealed on 08, as you guys have mentioned, on the House floor, to finance and bring into being what is known as Hamas. And then one last little timeline here. In 2019, just ahead of COVID, they had, Netanyahu had successfully, in the Knesset, argued to keep funding the Hamas because it was brought about, as Ron Paul said, folks, to act as a counterweight to Yasser Arafat and the PLO. So to get kind of their own cat's paw within the movement. It does make sense. So I have looked into this and researched it for many years. The USS Liberty, June 8, 67, and the tripartite agreement, and the early massacres by the Israelis. So, no, I don't track with them. They've never been held to account for killing 34 Americans.
Yeah, that's such a terrible
with fighter
story.
jets, too. It wasn't just like, like shooting from another boat. It was fighter jets. Like, they were vulnerable to the highest
like
degree.
War crime, right?
Oh,
Levels?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and also when they threw the life boats out, when they finally thought they had a chance, and the Israelis were sitting back in the gunboats, Captain McGonigal said, "Don't jump into the lifeboats." They just threw some out on the water empty. The Israelis, they had the binoculars, they knew it, but they couldn't see everybody. They didn't know who was in there. They opened fire. That it contravenes the Geneva Convention, of which Israel is not a signatory.
Whoa.
These people are a mini state of terrorists. I'm telling you, and the American Christian right needs to wake up to that fact.
Well, thank you for all of that. That's, oh my God, a bunch of
Thank you.
information. I don't really even...
I don't know if the Christian right has to wake up. I think everyone needs to wake up. But
well, they definitely need to also. But I just think that's so much information to take in. This guy's obviously been what's the word, researching it for a long time so that I can't follow it all, but I know
I was able to follow it all.
Yeah, I followed that to the
But
T.
I've heard it. All those snippets I've heard before.
Yeah.
I did, except for the thing about the Israeli gunboats shooting once the lifeboats got down. I hadn't heard that one before.
I do vaguely remember that from a small documentary.
there's a caller, a lady that calls in a lot still, and her brother, her only brother, died on the USS Liberty, so that's how I heard about it. She called in and was talking about it.
I've heard her before. I got another comment about what he was saying. He refers to Israel as a mini terrorist state. That guy said, well, let's not forget Israel's number one financial backer is the mega terrorist state that is the United States. I mean, the United States spends more than like the top 10 countries in the world combined on military.
Yep.
Maintaining this empire. But, that's what you have to do in order to maintain faith in this money that you print out of thin air so you can maintain, control essentially over the world. And half the world, we got a lot of places all over the world where you got a guy driving a $2 million, supercar, and right next to him there's a homeless dude, with his shopping cart or with just his whatever he's got, his rags that he's wearing. And you're starting to see a lot more of that. And that's because of this fractional reserve banking. And another thing with Kennedy is LBJ, who Success Kennedy, who was, probably in on the whole Kennedy assassination. And my brother, actually, a lyric in one of his songs, Josh Noon, and joshnoon.com is a website. I don't know if he runs anymore, but you can hear some of his music.
Noon with an E at the end?
Noon with an E, Noone. And anyways, my brother Josh, he's got a bunch of really cool original music that he wrote, basically about corruption in government and stuff. And in one of the songs, he talks about, and when Jack died, Johnson smiled inside. And what Johnson did is, one of the first things he did was he took back Executive Order 1111. I don't remember it now.
It's like 11/00011 or something.
Yeah. Well, basically, this was an executive order where JFK made it so that the Federal Reserve Bank could not lend money at an interest rate to the United States. And then what happened is you had these greenbacks that he brought back also via that executive order. So you'll see a lot of 1964, I believe it was, silver certificates.
Right.
And that was because JFK was actually had the Treasury issuing money instead of the Federal Reserve, because the United States has the ability to issue actual money. Like this national debt could be paid off very easily, but the federal actually doesn't even have to be paid off. The American people just need to tell the Federal Reserve to screw off. We're not paying you.
Yeah.
That's what really needs to happen. But anyways, so Executive Order 1111, I believe it was, that Kennedy did to essentially strip the Federal Reserve of essentially its influence and power, was one of the first things that LBJ reversed or repealed. And just like when Biden came in, we know President Biden, who's been basically a career pedophile. Trump had like this pedophile task force, and that was one of the first things that Biden shut down. Was this pedophile task force, child trafficking task force. And so, yeah, we definitely, I've always believed that JFK was the last president actually duly elected by the people.
I've heard a lot of people say that, and I don't really know why that is exactly, but I know that Lyndon B. Johnson, the guy who got to come in afterwards, got to be a part of the report. What do they call it? It's like with a W. The report
The Warren Report?
Yeah, the Warren
Commission.
That got
the
to
magic bullet theory.
Explain what happened, explain it away.
Oh, Trump's going to release that. Everyone vote for Trump. He's going to release the Warren Report. All right, Trumpson, release the Warren Report.
Well,
here's the thing.
He didn't release the Warren Report.
Trump proves the president is basically not in power. There was all kinds of things that he tried to do that he wasn't allowed to do, like get out of Syria. He wanted to get out of Afghanistan. They wouldn't let him do it. And then, of course, when they have Biden do it, because Biden, if Biden was my grandfather, I'd take his keys away.
Yeah.
Right? So they're using this guy, they're abusing the administration, the deep state is abusing Joe Biden. They probably got him whacked out on all kinds of drugs to keep him moving or whatever, who knows. And so now they got hit, they do this botch removal of Afghanistan, and then they dump billions of dollars of munitions and money into Ukraine. And now it looks like a lot of it's showing up in Palestine. So the people who run the world, the people who own the world, that we don't know who their names are, we just know who works for them, media and big tech, and it's probably the AI that owns the world now. Who knows? But yeah, algorithm's certainly in control. It's got a lot of slaves, and but these guys, they need a war. They need because we're in a major financial meltdown right now that nobody's reporting on. We were in a major financial meltdown right before COVID, and they just, with the stimulus, created a whole bunch of money. So the powers that be, because there's a massive financial, we're on a cliff of a massive financial meltdown. The powers that be, they can kick off World War III. It'll just go into money printing and this emergency stuff, and then we're going to have rationing, and it's going to be really interesting if they try to draft Americans.
So I'm going to get a lot of haters that listen to this show, and I had a discussion last night and with a friend of mine, but I believe that Bitcoin was created by the government, actually more like defense contractors and people within government, whatever. And they did it to trade their value between other defense contractors.
But it's not even.
But why? But here's the question:
here's
why
the
they do that?
It's not even private.
I'll tell you why.
Why would they do it if it's totally visible?
That's also part of it, and that's all part of it. It's because it's traceable and all that stuff, right? But look who is the number one asset holder of Bitcoin right now.
I don't know, who is it?
It's the government. Yeah.
The government.
Oh, is it?
So you know that they planned this right now, where we are, of them the biggest holders of Bitcoin. You know that it was going to become a thing. They knew that it was going to be used for all the wrong things so that they could seize it and hold in their own assets. And then I really believe that this is a huge wealth transfer. And if you're, in my opinion, if you're still in Bitcoin right now, you're going to get what you deserve. You're
it's going to go down?
I feel like it is definitely like the biggest front in the crypto world, of course, because it's like the trender. But I think it's going to narrow down. I think it's the government coin. I think it's the world centralized currency. It's the world currency that they were always wanting to have, and they got it. And the only way that they can control the markets is to get involved. But to get involved, that means they had to start it in the first place. And if you look back in BitGold and how it was developed, it was all defense contractors. It really was. It just makes sense. And who's the one that continues wars? And think about this. When it comes to the economy, defense contractors, if they just shut down tomorrow, right, this country would just collapse, regardless if they just keep printing money. If they stop printing money tomorrow, right, and the defense contractors are still going to exist, but if the defense contractors just die out, we're done. This country's done. The upper middle class is what's feeding everybody, and they know that they need to keep this going while inflation's occurring, so they have to create a war to allow the defense contractors to rebuild so that the money flows further into this country. I really think this is all a staged event.
If the defense contractors are done, go kaput tomorrow, and the economy collapses, that's only a big deal because people have to pay property taxes in order to maintain on their property. So it's because you have to pay property taxes that would be a lot of hardship. If the economy really collapsed and you didn't have all these taxes and rules and regulations and we could all just, freely trade with each other amongst each other, the market would, do its thing and we'd get along.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think I actually would love to see defense contractors just die tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think that what would happen is basically the biggest threat would be make sure you have guns, because the poor people who don't have any they don't have any food in their basement, they don't have any skills or anything, who just rely on the government to send them a check every month, they'd start trying to kill people and take what's yours if you have a farm or whatever. So
that's what happened in Russia. The masses of the incompetent people who were basically just doing what they were told by the government for a few generations under the communism, when it got to the point to where they couldn't feed themselves anymore, they couldn't eat. They basically just destroyed any shops, shopkeepers, any farms. They marched out into the country and took whatever they could. Anybody who had anything of value was essentially stripped of it. But that was essentially a society where you couldn't have any
No one
guns
had
at the time.
guns.
Nobody had guns.
But
What's going to be real interesting is if they start drafting Americans for this World War III.
Yeah.
These guys are trying like hell to start.
Because like most people won't do it, right? Don't
Oh,
you
really?
think?
If you're in tons of college debt and they're not doing any debt relief, and you can't find a job in your career choice, and the government goes, "Oh yeah, we got that kind of job for you." Here,
I just don't think most
They're
people
gonna
are going to
do
do
it.
it. Like especially if it's like front lines, like
I-
you're going to die.
I think the draft is not going to be like you've seen before. So we could have historically the draft is like, all right, every male 18 to 45 is to report here, and we're going to come get you if you don't. Well, first off, don't sign up for selective service, which I did not do, and nobody has to do. There's nobody can make you put your signature on on any document. Your signature is your property, so therefore you don't have to sign up for this selective service. And second, so the military's gone woke, so to be attractive to the woke people, and so the colleges are churning out a whole bunch of woke people, a whole bunch of algorithmic slaves. I mean, literally, and most anyone who goes to college for like medical, any of this education stuff, or get some kind of government job or whatever parasite, economy thing they're looking to do, is part of this cult of wokeism, it seems like, best I can tell. So now, like Joe was saying, these guys got tons of debt. So I met a family this summer. They have 2 kids, and they both work for University of Vermont. And they see me and my 2 kids, and our kids were about the same age. I'm sure their kids were vaccinated. And we were at like an ice cream joint, and this was over by the beach, and I was talking about, they're like, oh, we can't, your kids are only 3 and this one's not even 2, and he's talking like this and he's saying this thing. And my son Cash is like, look at my motorcycle, he's telling these people vroom vroom. And my daughter's
whenever I heard your daughter speak at PorkFest this year, I was like, whoa. Like the last time I saw her, she was too little to speak, I think, and then all of a sudden she was saying long thought out sentences.
Yeah, and my 2-year-old son too. He's like, at 18 months old, he's like, you're driving down the road and there's an excavator on the side of the road. He's like, excavator.
Wow.
And my mom's like, he says 4-syllable words and he's 18 months old. That's crazy.
That's funny.
Well, the thing is with kids, it is very, very hard. Like, so when you're born, you pretty much have your highest intelligence right there, your most intelligence. You're you're born with all the intelligence you're going to get. It's very hard to increase intelligence. But it is actually pretty easy to reduce intelligence.
I believe
and a lot of parents unknowingly reduce the intelligence of their children by malnourishment. So when you see these 75-pound 4-year-olds, that's a malnourished kid. Because, or just like when you see 350-pound 30-year-olds, that's a malnourished adult. They're eating all these empty calories, they're eating all this junk food,
and now they have all these toxins in their fat cells.
All this stuff, all these bad things happening. So what's happening with a lot of kids that are brought up in the woke culture is the kids are getting vaccinated. The parents are probably vaccinated while they were pregnant or before they were pregnant. They're giving their kids internet devices. A lot of these people who work at University of Vermont, they both work there. They live in an apartment that costs them $3,000 a month.
The kids are probably in daycare.
The kids are in daycare. The kids are vaccinated. The kids have their internet devices. The daycare requires the internet devices. Daycare is like subsidized by the college. And they were basically, they're like, wow, how are your kids this advanced? I'm like, my kids aren't advanced. This is the way kids have been for years. Go look at any Amish family. This is the way their 3-year-olds are. My 3-year-old was gutting chickens with me last week. We butchered 80 some odd chickens, and we had a couple 3-year-olds, a couple 5-year-olds, a 7-year-old, and they were all, and some moms. We were all, doing the chicken harvesting, and they were into it. They were learning about it. We had a guy come, Ian Underwood of Bardo Farm. He came and he taught us all about the chicken anatomy and how to butcher a chicken. It was really good, and the kids are into it. So the thing is so the college people, the career college people who basically have been in some kind of mind control, government indoctrination, for their entire brain development life, 20 some odd years, are broke.
You're segueing to what I was actually thinking about before you were talking, is that It doesn't matter if they're fat. It doesn't matter if they're stuck behind computer screens. You know why? I just sent it to the news prep chat over there. But I believe the future of warfare, and we haven't really seen it yet with this new war, is robots.
Yep.
And so and this is going to be a scary part, is because I think the kids are already just so used to warfare and the video games and that sort of thing. They're like kind of desensitized, and they got some skills, I tell you that.
Right.
But you really look at it, they're going to be sitting down in front of a computer, and they already have the drones, flying over and bombing, and they're doing it all remotely. But what I'm really scared of is that the kids are not going to know they're actually bombing real people.
Oh, you mean like in the movie Ender's Game? You remember? Did you see that movie?
It's been a while, but what I'm saying is, like, I believe that you're going to have live feeds of the ground or from the perspective of the robots that are actually there on the battlefields, like actual battlefields. But the kids are going to be looking on the screen, and they're going to be said, "Oh, this is just training."
Yeah, but people
and they're
are
gonna
already...
they're going to think it's virtual reality.
I think people are sociopathic enough that they would kill people with a robot.
Oh,
they already
sure.
do that with drones.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to have to be told it's real people. They're going to be told it's a simulation, and they're just going to do it because they're told.
The
They're
people
training.
who we're telling them would be the ones who get that karmic reaction, and they know that karma is real, so they want people to be doing this of their own accord. That's what I believe.
So there's plenty of unhinged algorithmic slaves who are absolutely willing to do violence.
I don't think they'd have to be tricked.
So I don't think they have to be tricked either. But the ones that have to be tricked, they can go to a different area. Now, they're all going to be probably doing this remotely from home. So they'll be zooming into work for war. And they're broke. They're living in apartments that are, tremendously overpriced. Their kids are being indoctrinated, and they're not getting, mommy, daddy time. They're not learning. They're not earning their dopamine hits from, doing things that children should be doing, which is like interacting with, farm animals, as far as I'm concerned, and being outside and playing in the dirt and in the grass and climbing trees and, doing that kind of stuff. They're probably not getting books read to them because, daycare, they want you to have an actual internet device for your kid. And so when the new draft is going to start off as, well, we will defer all your college debt, and we're going to pay you this amount of money and give you a housing allowance and give you health care to come be in the woke military, because the only people who are going to be in a position to where they have massive college debt are basically these woke people, and they're living in these crappy apartments.
Who can't get the jobs when they get out? The ones that have all different colored hair.
Yep, exactly.
Because they went for gender studies or something. Yeah. Like something that doesn't equal a job. We didn't really get to all your guys' calls in that segment because there wasn't really a time to stop.
It was good
saying
chat.
what we were talking about. Exactly. So 603-283-6160. If you're on the phones, just hold after this break. Don't go anywhere. It's Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
Eleutheromania, the insatiable desire for freedom. It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass. Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says he's working on finding a durable, sustainable peace for Israelis and Palestinians. He made the comments just before boarding a plane to Israel, where he'll meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday. He also said he plans to talk to Israel about concrete steps to minimize danger to civilians. And Blinken said peace was imperative.
We will be talking about how we can set the conditions for a durable, sustainable peace, durable, sustainable security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. We're focused on the day of. We also need to be focused on the day after. And so in conversations that we'll be having through the course of this weekend, I expect you'll see a focus there, and particularly how we can get, over time, two states for two peoples, which, in our judgment, remains the best guarantor, and maybe the only guarantor, of a secure Jewish and democratic Israel and Palestinians with the state that they're entitled to.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden says 74 American citizens with dual nationality have managed to leave Gaza via the Rafah crossing and entered Egypt. It comes as the health ministry in Gaza, run by Hamas, says more than 9,000 people have been killed since the start of the conflict. FSN Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv has more on the aid situation for civilians stuck in Gaza.
We do know that many nations are sending more aid. There are calls for humanitarian truces, humanitarian pauses, even ceasefires. Just in the last hour or so, the UAE has actually come out to say that it is prepared to treat 1,000 Palestinian children who've been injured in this conflict, but not really providing any further details on when this will happen and how it would be facilitated, whether it could possibly be under this deal that was brokered by Qatar to open the Rafah crossing. So that is yet to be seen.
At the Trump Organization civil fraud trial in New York, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have testified that they had no involvement with documents that the judge has ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two Trump brothers and the former President Donald Trump are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets to secure better loans. FSN's Jody Jacobs reports.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. They have blamed accountants, claiming they are the ones who assembled the financial statements that were used to secure loans and insurance.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, what's in a statement of regret? Britain's King Charles has been on a state visit to Kenya and made headlines in Nairobi by expressing his greatest sorrow and deepest regret for what he called abhorrent and unjustifiable violence committed against Kenyans during colonial rule. The King stopped short of making a full apology, but on Wednesday held a private meeting with the family of one rebel leader in Kenya who was hanged by the British in 1957. Many Kenyans are seeking a direct apology. Some are seeking reparations from the UK. There, Linda Bellos is an activist and former member of the now disbanded Africa Reparations Movement.
The making of the colonies, the stealing of the resources, half the world that Britain was proud to claim, ownership and control over. So those things that I had to learn about British history, it still troubles me. I'm glad to hear the King say on our collective behalves as British people, that we have something to apologise for.
Tours by the British royal family to the country's former colonies are now invariably accompanied by demands for apologies for the colonial era, for which the king in Kenya said there could be no excuse. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says he's working on finding a durable, sustainable peace for Israelis and Palestinians. US President Joe Biden says 74 American citizens with dual nationality have now managed to leave Gaza via the Rafah crossing and entered Egypt. And at the Trump Organization fraud trial, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have testified, saying that they had no involvement with the accounts. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
While getting drinks after work with a group of coworkers, local shipping clerk Russell Chambliss told reporters Wednesday night he was unsure whether he was bonding with his male associates or being mercilessly bullied by them.
I'm pretty sure that Bill called me limp dick earlier, and Todd keeps punching me in the shoulder. Pretty hard, too. I can't tell if it's their way of letting me feel like I'm part of the group or making me feel bad about myself.
Chambliss said while his coworkers verbally demeaned him and even made him feel physically threatened at various points in the evening, they did so with large smiles on their faces, making it extremely unclear if his coworkers enjoyed his company or wanted him to leave the bar.
Well, I told Jeff about this problem that I was having with my girlfriend, and he called me a pussy and then walked away. But then, like 5 minutes later, he came back with a beer that he had bought for me. What does that even mean? Apparently I'm invited over to Todd's house for dinner this weekend. I guess that'll be fun.
For more on this story, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the number for you to call to get in on the conversation with us. 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie.
Jay.
And Joa.
And I wanted to take a second to thank Jessica, who's a platinum member of the Amplifier program. Amplifier stands for Amplify, Market, Promote, and Support Free Talk Live. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com. So thank you, Jessica. We really appreciate it. If you sign up, you'll get some perks for signing up, and you'll also be able to help us spread our message on the air. We're going to finish up this article that Jay was talking about, reading, that talks about this guy who shot up a bowling alley in a bar in Maine, and how his coworkers with the Federal Reserve, the Army Reserve, they already knew that he was crazy. His son knew he was crazy, so Jay's got more on that.
So, yeah, this is from the Daily Mail, .co.uk. So the article goes on, there's a quote here. It says, I dropped him off. He was concerned his weapons were still in the car. He still has all the weapons. In another, and these are text messages, he said, I think he's going to snap and do a mass shooting. These are the guys, the Army Reservists, text messages are quoting here. The sergeant reported his fears to a supervisor who then notified sheriff's deputies with the Shagadahock County Sheriff's Office. But the only thing that was done to stop Card was a File 6 alert sent out to police departments across the state that went largely ignored. Deputies went to his home to try to speak with him twice, but were unsuccessful. And on October 18th, exactly a week before the massacre, the File 6 alert was canceled. I got a little comment about deputies going there only twice, because when they wanted to come talk to me and my wife about allowing my daughter to sleep for a short time, about 20 minutes in the car, the police came multiple times, several times a day until we talked to them.
Whoa.
So,
ridiculous.
Yeah. It's, there's double standards. It has been described to him as alarmed and dangerous, telling police to exercise caution if they came across him. Maine State Police have washed their hands of the tragedy, saying that they're not responsible for the alert or responding to it. Now the families of some of those killed are demanding answers as to why police did not do more to stop Cucked when they had a chance.
Because they have no duty to protect you.
As according to the Supreme Court and a whole bunch of state courts.
Yep.
He should have never been out to run free. He had threatened and threatened. They can't wash it away, saying we did all we could, Leroy Walker, whose son was among those murdered, told CBS. I mean, it would be really terrible for, this tragic opportunity for the state to gain more power to go to waste. So one interesting thing in here, it says, Cucked, 40, told his son he was convinced people were calling him a pedophile behind his back. His brother said his mental health troubles became worse with his hearing aids. So is anybody familiar with these modern hearing aids, how they're connected directly to Bluetooth? Like, I got a friend that, like,
fascinating,
that she wears hearing aids, and if I call her, the phone call goes directly to her hearing aid.
I had never heard
She streams her Spotify to her hearing aid.
Whoa.
Because it's all controlled by the phone. And we also know that there is technology where they can send a sound wave, direct it to your whatever bone vibrates in your in your eardrum or your ear, and it will literally sound like God is talking to you in your head.
Oh, that's so scary.
So we know that, and so I am very convinced that AI, the algorithm, for example, knows who the pedophiles are long before the pedophiles know they're pedophiles.
Because of, algorithms.
Because of
their search history.
Because data harvesting.
Yeah.
The fact that they can compile all this stuff every time that you put a comment or a like on whatever social media, whatever type of girl you click on or like for your porn experience or your OnlyFans or whatever. They're programming the kids with pornography with this like barely 18 teen pornography. These, and like, a lot of the college, like there was a study done where this professor was trying to like come up with college boys who masturbate to porn, which was not a problem because they all do. And he couldn't come up with a control of college boys that didn't use pornography. And this was like a 2004 study a guy was trying to do, some college in California to like study the effects of essentially pornography on the brain, which is really bad actually. And so anyways, so now all these 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old kids got a smart device in their phone. And, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids, boys especially, are susceptible to being sexually programmed because that hormone are starting to come into their body. They're basically starting to, get sexually frisky because they're, it's puberty. That, that's what happens. So, with adolescent bulls of any species, and, they get rude, they get aggressive. But now you have the internet device programming them to what their sexual desire is, and I believe that this is another element of the pedophilia issue in this
I can
country.
tell you how it's programming, and you can just anyone can just go on Facebook right now, and when you're scrolling, okay, and if you have your camera revealed, okay, I'm not trying to help out bad people here, but what I'm saying is like when you're scrolling through Facebook and it's showing you ads, provocative ads, that like they know when you slow down and look. But also, the camera is looking at your eyes, and it's seeing are you reacting? What's your facial expression? Are your eyes gravitated to that portion of the screen? They know this. They know all that. That's data collecting, all that stuff. So when you're scrolling through Facebook, yeah, you better believe once you're, that's a sexy girl, right? And then you go, let's go keep scrolling. And then another, like they will give you predictive things to see.
Yep, they will stimulate these sexual desires, especially in young men.
There was this time that Captain was talking on the show, so I don't feel bad sharing it. And he was saying that Twitter kept suggesting to him these pictures of like women in bikinis, like hot women in bikinis who were holding fish that they've just caught. He was like, I'm not mad about it. I just keep getting these pictures popping up.
Yeah, and it probably stimulates something if you're into fishing and hot women, and most men are. I believe this is why we really need to be keeping kids off internet devices and young boys off internet devices, and then you have the whole other programming of the feminist stuff. The girls are all like, oh, I need to wear all this makeup and I need to do all this crazy stuff to my face and my hair and my butt and my boobs and because like they want to look like the Instagram or filter or the Snapchat filter and all this stuff.
I'm like pretty certain that Kim Kardashian's big butt was just to make it to where women think it's okay to be fat.
Yeah, it's
because
gross.
Women just decide, oh, I'm going to be a little overweight because guys like that. Guys don't like skinny girls. Healthy girls, guys like girls that are essentially fat because you don't get a big butt and a tiny waist without surgery unless you're just like, I don't know, really extremely quote unquote lucky. I don't like big butts, but you're just going to become fat and then people are going to be telling you like that's what guys like because that's what guys think they like because the internet told them so because Kim Kardashian or whatever.
I don't think
they end
it's
up
just
fat.
about sexualization of people. I think it's about marketing. So like let's just say an ad has a hot chick on it, right? But there's a really nice sports car in the back. And if you're more interested in sports cars, they'll see your eyes gravitate to the sports car. And then you keep scrolling. Guess what? Now they're going to show you car ads. Do you see how this works? It's okay. If you looked at the hot chick's boobs and the camera saw you gravitate your eyes to the boobs, guess what? You keep scrolling, they're going to show you more boobs. You know what I mean?
I got a friend he's a computer techie guy. And his son's a teenager. And he's like going through like the history on the Wi-Fi network and all this stuff. And
Sounds like a bad idea.
And he's like, he was like disturbed that his son was being pushed like porn by the algorithm that was essentially, you know, a lot of this like young girl type porn to sort of, he feels it was to sort of program the desire of, you know, young girl, childish type, you know, into, you know, the brain. Because whatever is being, you know, sexually put in front of, say, a 13, 14-year-old boy is probably what they're going to desire when they're older. So, like, traditionally, a lot of, you know, men, you know, are you know, desire someone that's like their mom. Because their mom was essentially the you know, the image, or maybe definitely with me, it was a babysitter when I was a teenager. Like I am very attracted to that type of woman, and I thought she was really hot. And
I would
like
say
a
it's
teacher.
for pretty much everybody.
I mean, I had definitely had a hot babysitter who was really nice.
Yeah, but see, that's a prolonged experience with the younger woman. You're not like, you know what I mean. So you had interactions with this person, so you kind of develop a crush. Developing this, you know, image in your brain of who you would want to be with.
Yep. So, and a funny thing is my stepmom's like, oh, you know, my wife looks a lot like this babysitter I had when I was a kid, and I didn't even think about it until my stepmom said, you know, mentioned it one day when
there's a whole channel of porn for
crazy.
that. There's a whole channel of porn for anything.
Yeah, that's true. Probably.
Because it's a really good motivator. It's a good it stimulates very well. It grabs attention. There's a lot of marketing money to be made out of it, and there's a lot of programming that can happen with it, and the programming is a real big problem.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I think is so weird is there was this TV show, and I was telling my little sister about this last night because she's 4 years younger than me, but she doesn't remember this TV show, and I do. Either of you ever heard of the TV show that out of Canada? I think they played it on Nickelodeon. That was called Life with Derek.
No.
Well, it was about a girl and boy who were the same age, and their parents got married, so they became stepbrother and sister. And by the end of it, they were like flirting. And it's like a will they, won't they situation. And they're stepbrother and sister. And that is like always talked about on like memes about like people who are like my age or like, how weird was it that we were like served this TV show that was encouraging people to like flirt with their stepbrothers and sisters. And that's a whole porn category and everything like that, and I just find that really weird. Like,
I mean,
who
in
thinks
the
of
argument, just for the sake of argument, you know, I think they were just trying to hit a target audience. Like,
but
it's
there
becoming
really one? That's
not
creepy.
so much a sexualization of it. I would, you know, just for argument's sakes, I don't know if that's really what they were going for, but like, you know, nowadays, you know, even when that show came out, there's still a lot of divorce going on, so there's a lot of remarrying going on, so there's a lot of, you know, half brothers and sisters, stepsisters and stepbrothers. You know, these things are occurring more and more nowadays than they ever have.
But like,
so if you're a teenage boy, you basically want to screw everything. And so at this time, another thing that you need to learn is, you know, some self-control, you know, discipline, which is not happening with the, you know, a lot of the city urban liberal types who are being raised by the internet. You see there's not much self-control on these college campuses with these guys, freaking out and going crazy. And
you have no idea.
Yeah, there's no right. You're saying there's
my God,
they're lacking self-control.
So
and
bad. I mean, look, hearing Keene, any Keene locals would say the same thing.
About what?
It's freezing cold out, yet all these kids are wearing skimpy clothes.
My sister
they're
was
18,
saying this
19,
the other
20,
day.
but...
My sister was saying this the other day, but she moved here from Alabama. She's not from Alabama, but that's where she lived last. And so she thinks it's really cold here right now, even though it's just in like the 40s. Sure. But on Halloween, she was like, it was so cold. And I kept seeing all these teenage girls walking by in like fishnets. I was like, it's Halloween.
But honestly, because I go cop watching and stuff, and the Friday, Saturday night before Halloween, holy cow, there's so many provocative outfits. It was just unusual. I've never seen it. I've never seen this before.
One thing I've noticed about the Keene State kids is they all dress exactly the way TikTokers do. Like, they're all copying the same exact look, and it's like, how could you possibly think... It's obvious. Like, I don't have to talk to them to know that they're dressing in this way because they think it makes them look different, edgy, cool. But they're all doing the same exact thing. So how do they not realize, oh, wait, this doesn't make me different. We're all doing the same different goth look or whatever.
I don't know how a TikToker looks like when they dress because I don't watch that
either.
But if you, Bonnie, if there was a picture that you could bring up and show me, because I got a little bit of a cultural shock going trick or treating with my kids the other night. So we went to this community in town where like everybody just decks out their houses. Yeah. And it's like trick or treating, and it's really cool. And people have like a haunted house where you can walk through, and it's pretty dope. It was actually pretty. It was fun, but there was a lot of like young girls that were like, kind of dressed up, kind of slutty. And when I say young girls, like there was some that I'm like, she's like 10.
Whoa.
And she's got like this little short skirt on, dressed up like, a skimpy cheerleader. And it was like so I was talking with, I forget the guy's name, but he was somebody that was kind of walking with me, and he had a couple of kids too.
See that?
And,
like it's like goth, slutty.
Like sexy Halloween costume.
I'm not even talking about Halloween. I'm talking about how they always dress. Like this is how, like. I can tell when I see someone dressed like this that they're dressing like everybody else dresses on TikTok, like big eyeliner, girl.
That's the thing is like no one's genuine. Like
exactly.
Like Bonnie, you're not. I don't know if you're wearing any makeup right now, but you look very natural, right? Like
I wear some makeup, yeah.
But it's not overtelling, right? Like it's you're not like. Have a pound of it like these. I like to call them prostitutes.
Like prostitutes.
Like Fox News anchors and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Prostitutes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because girls like desire attention. That's another thing too. When girls are like sexually developing, going through puberty, one of the things that they very much desire is the attention, and one of the forms of attention that they can get very easily is Instagram, Snapchat, the comments, the like. And when they start getting these likes and all these praising, they're just earning this dopamine hit. And then what happens is somebody says something mean to them. And it actually translates to a lot of these girls when they get said something mean via Instagram or or whenever these social media platforms. It's like it's like somebody walked up to them and punched them in real life. Sort of the way they react to this, and this is also why the suicide rate among teenagers has like ramped up huge, especially during the scamdemic when they were basically isolated
Locked
to their
at home.
phones.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and a few of those pictures you saw. So I saw some girls sort of dressed up like that at trick or treating, but like the way I saw, like my 10-year-old is not going to be dressing like that. No freaking way. And that was sort of like my commentary walking around. I was a little disturbed.
One of my favorite costumes, and it was just like, I think I'm not like attracted to it, but like I like Wednesday. I like her demeanor. I like her character. And when I saw people dressed up as that, I was like appreciative that like, all right, good TV. Yeah.
Could you see the bottom of her butt cheeks?
No. Wednesday is like kind of prude. She's kind of like, she
doesn't like anyone else.
She has like pants or a long skirt or maybe,
I think she barely had a crush, on her TV show. But like, I just, why do you got to make, like, if someone took Wednesday and made her sexy, like, no, that's completely opposite to what Wednesday was supposed to be.
Wednesday's not advertising for the attention, right? She wants to be left alone. That's kind of like her, like,
Right.
thing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, her shtick.
From what I gather, I've honestly not seen any
Great
of
show.
that.
You got to watch it.
Yeah, not seen any of it. But I still know what you're talking about just because lots of people are into it right now because the movie came out about her.
But when it comes to control and mind control, I mean, it's essentially the kids are being programmed like crazy. Like the algorithm knows who these people are that are capable of being pushed to do this crazy stuff. And I'm sure that the FBI knows who these people are and conveniently either helps them along or lets them do it or keeps an eye on them or makes a confidential informant out of them or, gives them a little incentive to do more. Maybe they do something a little wrong and, well, let's just let this guy get away with it. So he takes, I stole a candy bar today, and tomorrow I'm going to steal a thing of vodka, and then now I'm going to steal a car. Now I'm going to go rob a bank. Because every time you get away with a little bit of something, I mean, just look at the Hunter Biden timeline of all of his photos and his Pornhub stuff and whatnot. Because he's constantly been allowed to get away with it. So you essentially allow this psychopath to develop that can get away with things. And when your intent is to have, a generation of people like this in 20 years, just start with the infants. And I really think that's what is the algorithm capable of doing that if a parent's going to put an internet device in front of the kid?
Yeah, I want to counter this whole like horrible, sexualization. And it might require going to the porno websites. But hang on a second. It's a great way to spread like freedom messages. I haven't done it personally myself, but like if you were to upload videos, like documentaries and stuff to these porn sites,
I see.
It might get some attention.
Well, there was a thing where people were uploading, so like OnlyFans or some OnlyFans like stuff where people is like not porn, it's like documentaries or educational stuff. There's also they were talking about like when YouTube and Twitter and all these Facebook are, shadow banning and, censoring all of this stuff. People are like, all right, I'm just going to set up a Pornhub account and I'm just going to start putting all my videos on Pornhub.
Yeah, I think the Free Talk Live should start doing this.
Yeah, Jeff Berwick was like, I'm putting I got kicked off of YouTube, so now I'm uploading to Pornhub all of his,
And it's like when I talk about the like TikTok girls, I get put in such a weird, awkward position because it's like I'm not saying anyone should not be able to wear a lot of makeup, especially if it's like the thing that is just a fun creative outlet to them. It's just don't let yourself be controlled. Like everyone having the same exact style is not being unique.
It's gray. It's everyone's boring.
Right.
And we're not saying you're bad people. We're not saying that you're nice. A lot of these people that I run into in Keene that are dressed this way, they're nice. They're not like mean or anything. I don't know. It's not a problem.
What I've noticed,
except when they start drinking, things get weird. I mean,
what I've noticed about the excessive makeup women is they generally lack confidence, and so people who lack confidence, when they get a little loose, they start drinking, like you were about to say. You start looking at those people who sort of lack confidence when they start getting when they start drinking. They sort of get a little liquid confidence, a little liquid bravery. As one of my friends used to refer to it. Oh, he got some liquid bravery in him. He's ready to fight, So they start getting catty. They start getting snappy and vicious, just like you were going to say. Right?
So I actually don't like that reference for alcohol. And I like this new reference that I've been talking to a friend of mine regarding what alcohol's purpose is. And I think what alcohol does is it brings out what you want to be when you're not drinking.
And it also will
That's what it brings out. It brings out like you. All right. So when you start drinking, you get sexualized, right? You like start flirting with people more. That's what you want to do when you're sober. You just can't do it because you don't have the guts to do it. So you have to drink to do it. No. And I think everyone has these different avenues where drinking funnels that drive for need, whatever that need is. It's not so much maybe courage is one of them. Right?
There's a theory that like drinking doesn't do anything and everybody just starts behaving a certain way. But 603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says he's working on finding a durable, sustainable peace for Israelis and Palestinians. He made the comments just before boarding a plane to Israel, where he'll meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday. He also said he plans to talk to Israel about concrete steps to minimize danger to civilians. And Blinken said peace was imperative.
We will be talking about how we can set the conditions for a durable, sustainable peace, durable, sustainable security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. We're focused on the day of. We also need to be focused on the day after. And so in conversations that we'll be having through the course of this weekend, I expect you'll see a focus there, and particularly how we can get over time to two states for two peoples, which in our judgment remains the best guarantor and maybe the only guarantor of a secure Jewish and democratic Israel and Palestinians with the state that they're entitled to.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden says 74 American citizens with dual nationality have managed to leave Gaza via the Rafah crossing and entered Egypt. It comes as the health ministry in Gaza, run by Hamas, says more than 9,000 people have been killed since the start of the conflict. FSN Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv has more on the aid situation for civilians stuck in Gaza.
We do know that many nations are sending more aid. There are calls for humanitarian truces, humanitarian pauses, even ceasefires. Just in the last hour or so, the UAE has actually come out to say that it is prepared to treat 1,000 Palestinian children who've been injured in this conflict, but not really providing any further details on when this will happen and how it would be facilitated, whether it could possibly be under this deal that was brokered by Qatar to open the Rafah crossing. So that is yet to be seen.
At the Trump Organization civil fraud trial in New York, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have testified that they had no involvement with documents that the judge has ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two Trump brothers and the former President Donald Trump are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets to secure better loans. FSN's Jody Jacobs reports.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. They have blamed accountants, claiming they are the ones who assembled the financial statements that were used to secure loans and insurance.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160. That's the number you can call to get in on the conversation with us. 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie,
Jay,
and Joa.
And we have been talking about, lots of different subjects tonight, but we started talking about the idea of if there's another draft, what will that look like? What will the next World War III look like? Because in my opinion, I just don't think they could do it the traditional way that they used to. Like people just, come sign up to go grab a gun and go to the front lines and get shot at. I don't think that they could find enough people who want to do that.
Those are the people that are going to be doing that are the ones on the ground that are like protecting their homeland or their homes. So what you're seeing, the thing Gaza, is Israel, you'll see more of that.
I just mean American.
Right. Well, here's one problem here in America. Right now, we have an epidemic of single men that are, of entire age, span of men that, should be, have a woman or wife or whatever. And then we have an epidemic of women over 35 years old that don't have any children. So, like Andrew Tate was talking on something I was listening to him about. He was talking about all these men that don't have any children. So, like, one of the things that happens in some of these Middle Eastern countries, these Muslim countries, is you have these, top tier, top 5%, here in America, we call them F-boys, on Tinder, the one that, 80% of the women are, hooking up with on Tinder, oh my God, the 5%. Yeah. So what's happening in these Muslim countries, you got guys that have, 10, 20, 30 wives, and then you have a whole bunch of men that ain't getting no woman. And they ain't got no ladies. And what's happening? And what are those guys good for? War. So we have a loneliness epidemic of men in this country. That's like a fact. And we have and you have a whole bunch of men that first off aren't even interested in women because they're not interested in losing half of their stuff that they've earned. They're not interested in the aggravation. They're not interested in all the possible bad things and negative things that could come with being in a relationship that are really being pushed by the algorithm to the young folks. Yeah,
that's one thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of stuff if you go on Twitter where you would just think the worst of each sex because you see like this, these people are probably robots or not real people or feds going on there pretending to be a woman, saying all this terrible thing or all these like vapid things, and then men are seeing that and they're like, wow, I can't get with a modern woman. And then the other way around, like people who are pretending to be men, probably robots or feds or something like that, and they're going on there and they're like, yeah, I'm a shallow blah 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 this and that, and then people go on the internet and when they don't go talk to real people, they just think, wow, I can't even get with a nowadays type of guy, even though it's mostly true.
Instead of like dwelling on this dark side about what is attractive and what should be attractive, I would say, actually, well, let me take that back. I want to talk about what is attractive, and I'm going to tell you what's attractive to me is that a woman that is eating naturally, foraging food, knows how to farm, and does the natural thing, doesn't wear makeup or a ton of it, just, not excessive. Just someone that is, understanding of this earth and not addicted to that junk like TikTok.
Yeah.
No offense, but I'm
not addicted to TikTok.
I didn't say you were.
What?
I just don't use TikTok at all because it's a Chinese corporate owned thing. I don't know. Thank you.
I don't find it so addictive as other people my age. I guess that's something about me that makes me seem more millennial than Gen Z. But it's just not that addictive to me.
But you have a fulfilling life.
Exactly.
You have, like, when you're done at the end of the day and you're tired and you go to sleep, you've done a bunch of tasks, you've done a bunch of things. You're probably thinking about maybe some tasks you need to do tomorrow, and you're thinking about your accomplishments of today. You got a dopamine hit from your accomplishments. I've watched you a couple of times now, like, figure some things out on your own, like sort of figure some things out.
With Free Talk Live?
Just here in the studio. And I see this little smile on your face like you got a little dopamine hit because you figured it out. And Joe has probably seen it too. I
feel like you're describing me a little bit too and how I feel when I have success. And
I see it with a lot of people who actually have things to do.
Me and Joe get our dopamine hits from Robin Hooding.
Yes.
Cha-ching.
Like
I
that
need to go
too.
do more,
but to back up a little bit, what I was talking about with all these single men out there that aren't interested in being family men, because men are really only good for two things: raising a family and fighting. And men who are family men and raising a family, they are not interested in going to war.
No.
And men who don't have a family and don't have children are easily convinced to go to war compared to a man that doesn't have children, and that's going to be hard to understand for people who don't have kids.
Hey,
I have kids, so I'm not interested in going to war.
How many homeschoolers do you see sign up to go to war?
None.
You know what I mean? It's only these kids that go to public schools and the public school system.
Yeah, and even like in these school systems, they have like, the military in there all the time.
Yep.
I know when I was in high school, it seemed like every Friday that these guys were recruiters, were down there, and it was always like some jacked, good-looking, tall man and some very good-looking woman is always what it seemed to be. And of course, the woman was definitely very attractive to me and all my friends. And I can remember guys in school being like, "Oh, my girlfriend's looking at that jarhead over there,"
Right.
because of course they're jealous because they were programmed to be jealous.
Somehow
by society.
camo catches the eye. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, they're all
eye-catching.
a man in uniform. I can remember some of the girls.
Look how professional he
Yeah.
looks. He's got a job already. Oh my God, he's got. It's
And then every now and then the guys would show up all tactical, like, "Oh, you could be in a tactical unit." So the real authoritarian psychopath kids were like, they were really, "Oh, I want to be like you with all that tactical gear." But the thing is the idea of getting, they probably wouldn't have to have a draft like they had like in Vietnam. Like literally, my dad did not sign up for selective service, and the football coach took the entire football team in this was in the 70s, early 70s. I don't know what year he graduated high school. Maybe it was 75 he graduated. But so he had friends that had 17, there was a couple of families in town that had boys that were 16 or 17, and they just moved to Canada. Because they had the money, so they were able to buy a place in Canada. They went to Canada. They're like, "Yeah, we're just going to live in Canada," and because Canada doesn't have a draft, and my kid's going to go to Vietnam or and get come back in a body bag or come back hooked on heroin or whatever. I mean, that was the real
Or
deal.
completely traumatized.
All that stuff. It was just to destroy Americans because America was too good of a country. Had to destroy it. So let's send their children to war and send them back home screwed up and messed up.
In my own family.
Yeah, me too.
So
right after basic training, they're like, "Hoorah, super straight, soldier," and then they go to war, come back completely different.
Come back opium addicts, heroin addicts,
or just traumatized.
Whatever. Yep,
Like-
alcoholics.
My grandpa, he was ordered to do things that he can't believe that he did, but he did them anyway, and he's just been messed up his entire life. I don't want to get into it. It's not my story to tell.
Sure.
It's kind of
that's why I'm not
probably
mentioning
embarrassing to him.
of
But
family members.
it's messed up his life so much that he's just still completely messed up to this day. He got divorced immediately when he got back. It ruined my mom's life because of that. And he's just not a normal person because of it. He's never lived a normal life. He's been homeless a lot.
I think your grandfather's story is your story to tell. Because you have inherited that trauma. Your mom inherited that trauma. She was injured by this.
Yeah.
She had a lot of things, and maybe that made your mom stronger. And it's part of the reason you're sitting here in this chair today. Not drinking, not drugging, not doing duck face photos. To your premium OnlyFans account.
Yeah.
So and why you have gratitude and you have a purpose in life. There's multiple reasons, but those kind of stories do need to be told so people can understand why. Like Adam Kokash was really good at this anti recruiting he would do. There's got to be some videos of him doing it somewhere.
That's grooming.
What, anti-recruiting is grooming?
Oh, no, the other way around. Just recruiting people from war is grooming. It's child grooming.
Yeah.
So we could have a situation in this country where they do a voluntary draft and incentives, and there's a whole bunch of single men just willing to go to war.
Yeah, but I don't want the government stealing money from me to pay for their sort of these promises they make financially in all kinds of ways. It's wrong. It's wrong.
Right.
That's NH exit. But
yeah, NH exit's a really good idea. We need to stop funding war. We want to be able to trade with. How cool would it be if we could just buy oil from Iran? Right? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Buy anything you want from anyone all over the country or the world. It's just so. That's one of the things that can.
I want to
bring
burn
tears to my
Iranian
eyes.
diesel fuel in my truck.
I just want to mention what is the test? The ASVAB.
Yep, ASVAB.
ASVAB. I just remember that in high school, they were trying to force us to take the test, and
I
I'm
never took it.
I'm like, whoa, is this going to affect our grade? Because we didn't study for this, right? I was asking these questions. Not that I was like, any much freedom aware where I'm public school student.
Neither. I just didn't want to take it.
But yeah, I was just questioning the fact that, damn, do we have to take another test?
Yeah.
Do you know why they pushed all those tests so hard?
Why?
Because the companies that issued the tests, like, so the Palmer School District in 1996 for that, I believe was called ASVAB test. I was a sophomore. They're like, you have to take this test. And so my father actually did a right to know, public records request is what it's called, Massachusetts, for for who's the company issuing this test.
When you were in high school?
Yeah. And also who, because they're like, you're not going to get a diploma. You'll get a certificate of attendance is what they were saying.
Wait, sorry, just to make sure, you mean the ASVAB as in the one that you have to take to get into the military?
Well, it's a placement test.
Yeah, placement test.
Oh, ASVAB is a military test?
Yeah, there's also different ones that are...
I think this one was called an MCAS test. Does that sound right?
It sounds familiar.
That's what I'm thinking. But anyways...
MCAV, I thought.
Whatever, but I don't know what the test was, but they wanted you to take it as an 8th grader, they wanted you to take it as a sophomore, and they wanted you to take it as a senior.
I had all kinds of different ones, like mine was called STAR at one point.
Yeah, actually there was a STAR test too. So anyways, my dad did one of I remember the STAR thing, and there was MCAS, some other, but basically every state probably calls it something different. But what it was some contractor. Some company, some private company got
like a defense contractor?
Well, I forget what the contract
Data collecting contract?
So no, it was money collection from the taxpayers because what they would do for each test they would complete, they would get like $400 from the school district, a few $1,000s from the Department of Education, a couple $100 from here. So basically per student, it turned out to like $5,000 or $6,000. And Palmer had, I don't know, each it was like 500 kids in the high school or something. I graduated with 96 kids in 1998. But so they got several $100,000 in essentially taxpayer money. No, I was just we had a tech school and a high school, so half the kids basically went to the tech school, so the classes were small, and we weren't a big town. But the amount of money these private contractors got to issue these tests to basically, pass out a 25-cent piece of paper that you fill dots in and then run it through an imaging device, to and then give a result. It was thousands of dollars per student.
Oh, come on.
20 years ago, and this added up to like millions of dollars, per student. I mean, per school district. And this is the reason your property taxes are extremely expensive, because of the school districts and the Department of Education, and the state is, paying for these tests just to launder money to these corporations. And it's been going on for a very long time.
I remember my economics book in high school. It was written by Ben Bernanke. I was like, oh, great.
Didn't he do some kind of Ponzi scheme or something?
Well, he was the chair of the Federal Reserve.
Oh, yeah, I didn't remember that.
He's the one that created quantitative easing.
He didn't create it. He introduced it and implemented it.
Yeah.
And they called him Ben Helicopter Bernanke because he's famous for saying, well, we'll just drop money from helicopters if we have to.
Whoa.
And this is why the
I'm actually
dollar
okay
has
with
devalued.
this. I'm okay with this. Like, if they just gave money away to relieve the debt,
yep,
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with them creating money into infinity now because
it'll crash.
Because
sooner.
here's why: we have cryptocurrency, we have gold backs, we have silver barter bags from JM Bullion, which are really awesome that you can get. That Silver Dave makes a 1/10 ounce silver. And
shameless plug.
Yeah, well, it's a great product, and
it is. It really is.
I've actually been working
beautiful
on
design.
I'm working on some videos with my kids, buying stuff with the silver bits because it's a 1/10 ounce of silver, and it's a nice little like rectangle thing.
Yeah,
and
they're so pretty.
And kids got these like little pockets that like two of my fingers fit into, but like their whole hand fits into it. So like, trying to give them like a dollar bill or a gold back just doesn't like really work. But the silver bits, they put like 2 or 3 in their pocket, and at the farmer's market, they're like, "Wait, I want an apple," or whatever the kids want. They can go buy them.
I mean, I like holding coins and holding these pieces. Yeah, exactly. It's like coins, but with real value.
So in New Hampshire, we have a really awesome alternative economy right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we can pretty much get whatever, even the local hardware store I deal with. My daughter paid for a toy in a 10th ounce of silver, and they were just happy to take it. They probably wouldn't have took it from me, but I'm like training everybody locally. Hey, we need to start doing this alternative currency because Yeah, just holding the dollars is just you're guaranteed. The government admits is going to be worth 2% less next year. That's we're 2% inflation is our goal according to the Federal Reserve.
That's why Ian gave me a chore to go yesterday and buy some discounted Halloween candy because it's like $13 for a big bag this at the day after Halloween. But next year it's gonna be $25. Like we bought one and it was a discount. It was probably like $12 last year. They were selling for $20 this year. And
the preservatives and all the poison in that candy,
So bad.
Not gonna go bad.
The cockroaches will be eating it in hundreds of years.
Exactly, it'll be totally fine.
If something bad happens.
Go back to like the bartering. I like this topic. But I was just checking out this new place opening up in town, a barbershop, and he's putting a sign up. It was pretty cool. And I asked him, "Hey, do you take crypto?" And he's like, "No, I'm not into that." But he had a nice big gold chain, and I was like, "What if I came in here with these?" Well, I said gold backs.
Showed it to him?
No, I didn't have it on me. But I was telling him about gold backs, telling him about silver, and I was like, "Would you do that?" And he's like, "I don't know, bring it in." I'm like,
There's
okay.
actually already a barber in town who loves gold backs, and he can take crypto, but he prefers gold backs.
Yeah.
He's just keen barber,
Yeah,
and he does a great job.
Here's another really good benefit of trading with the gold, the silver, is so when you walk into a Walmart or McDonald's, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So now, if this is the way you're looking,
If the cashier takes it,
well, maybe.
it happens from time to time.
But if you're dealing with someone who owns a shop, or it's a mom and pop shop, and maybe it's the wife of the owner, or the daughter, or the son, or it's just some employee, and he'll say, "Hold on, let me call my boss, see if I can take this," or "Come back tomorrow, I'll ask my boss tonight," or whatever. That's actually happened several times, and they've been like, "Oh yeah, next time I see him, yeah, we'll take those gold backs."
Well, I actually went to Hillsborough, New Hampshire, and I had some car issues, like wondering what was going on, and I just needed some help. But just like I wanted to pay for my time, and wasted about a half hour of their time trying to figure something out on my computer system, on my car, whatever. But I pulled out a gold back, like a few of them. I pulled up 5 of them, and I just want to give them some money, like worth about $20, right? 5 of them, and the guy that I was talking to. He didn't want him, right? He was like, "But show my dad." And like his dad, the owner of the place, walks out, and he just sees these gold leaf things in my hand, and it's just it was like
They're eye-catching.
Charlie in the chocolate factory seeing his golden ticket, and he literally was like holding it up and like, "Wow, this is so cool." And like I was like, "They're yours."
How old was the guy, you think, that liked him?
80.
Right.
And how old was the guy that didn't like him?
Or wasn't interested?
Yeah, like maybe like 50.
Yeah, there was somebody recently, but right before Ian went to jail, that he was going to tip in a gold back, and it was a young person, and she just said something like, "I don't know what I would do with it. I'm not a collector." Oh no, it was a guy. We went to Fireworks here in Keene. It's a restaurant, and this guy was like, "No thanks, I'm not really a collector." It was like, oh man.
You should have been like, "Hey, have you ever been to the Mighty Moose Mart? They take them."
Yeah, but I don't know.
I use that as my selling point. I use it because I tell them not only can you use it there, but you can buy more gold backs there.
But the thing about it is, and sell them. But the thing about it is, if somebody's not going to appreciate it, you don't want to give it to them as a tip because they're just going to throw it away.
Yeah, if they don't appreciate it, don't bother.
But
that's not the crowd we want to win.
To the and plus it's just like a waiter, not like somebody accepting it for the food. But I want to go to the phone calls and thoughts. I think this is Ridley in New Hampshire. Are you on the air with us, or is this?
Yeah.
Oh,
I am, but my phone's upside down. What do I do?
Oh.
So
What do you do?
What is this technology?
I have an update on Defend the Guard, but also something new that in the New Hampshire State House. There's, I guess this thing. Have you heard about this thing called they're calling it the Selective Service Sanctuary State?
No.
Oh, I like this.
It's like it's not a bill yet. It's just a legislative service request. I guess it's Tom Mannion, who is a state rep, Republican of Pelham, and his idea is to try and make it obviously difficult for the federal government to draft people in New Hampshire if they ever start drafting people or doing selective service type stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds great.
I don't know if it would have an immediate effect, but it might. I mean, like if people don't register for the Selective Service right now, nobody comes for them. It's more like they did not deny you things, like government grants and so forth.
Which those are all jurisdictional traps anyways, all these government grants. You shouldn't be accepting benefits from the government because that's how you essentially waive your rights and sort of surrender them and don't have them anymore, is by accepting these government services and
we need
benefits.
to retain sovereignty by not giving it up.
Yeah. And meanwhile, this thing called the Defend the Guard bill, which has been there's a lot of different states that I think are doing this, and that makes it so that you have to, like, if for the feds to take your National Guard out of your state, they have to actually declare war on somebody.
Right, and that's a really good one. They had it in last year. It didn't, or maybe it was 2 years ago, and it didn't go anywhere. And this time, they have a lot more support behind it. I think it's a really good idea. It's something that everyone should be able to get behind. Like, wow, how crazy is it to say that you have to actually declare war for people to act like there's a war going on and leave the country and go bomb people?
Yeah, it's like, oh no, didn't declare war. We're not at war.
Yeah.
Like, what? There's bombs over your head right now. Like.
And your sons are leaving New Hampshire to go bomb someone in Syria or whatever. So I hope more people...
have a vote. They had a vote on it in committee, and it was tied this time. So I guess that's progress. I don't know. I don't think it did that well last time, and it will go forward to the full state house, and so there's still time to, it could do better in the state house than it did in committee. I guess I don't know.
Any idea who introduced the bill?
That one's
Same
Tom
guy,
Mannion.
Tom Mannion. Yeah.
Okay.
I think at least that's my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is too. He's the one that usually talks about it. He put in a lot of good ones. He even put in one for me where I had found out, it was on TikTok. I found out that there was this guy in North Carolina who owns a monkey, and he puts all these cute videos of him and his pet monkey. And I was just wondering if it's illegal to have a monkey, so I looked up the laws, and not that I want one, but it's illegal in most states, but it's legal in North Carolina, where that guy lives, in Alabama, and some other places. And I just put on Twitter, @TomMannion, can you put in a bill for it to be legal in New Hampshire for people to own monkeys? Because it's kind of embarrassing that Alabama and North Carolina, these other states, are beating us on that front as far as liberty. And so he actually put it in. And some other people joined on the Twitter thread that I posted, Jeremy Kaufman was like, can you also add kangaroos? And he did it.
It's funny you bring this up because I actually think the solution to endangered animals is allowing people to breed them. And as you know, I do think people should take care of them properly.
Yeah, right.
And there's a lot of abuse, and people just don't know how to take care of them. They can't pay for the food. All this
that
junk.
happens right now with dogs. It's like
right.
And it's already legal, but it still happens.
Likely, if you can afford a tiger, you're likely able to feed it. And this whole thing with Joe Exotic and how he couldn't feed his animals, that was a problem, and he had bad marketing strategies by threatening another tiger.
I
rescuer.
never watched the Tiger King
but
show.
I'm just going on a tangent there.
Oh, but I'm sure that most people would want to take care of their animals if they bought them, especially how expensive they are. And I just don't think as soon as monkeys became legal, they would just be running all around New Hampshire.
You never know. I mean, there was Jumanji.
Yep, Jumanji wasn't keen. Well, thank you, Ridley of RidleyReport.com. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off whatever you're saying there in monkey. 603-283-6160. There's more coming up of Free Talk Live, so call in with whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Train monkeys for war.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says he's working on finding a durable, sustainable peace for Israelis and Palestinians. He made the comments just before boarding a plane to Israel, where he'll meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday. He also said he plans to talk to Israel about concrete steps to minimize danger to civilians. And Blinken said peace was imperative.
We will be talking about how we can set the conditions for a durable, sustainable peace, durable, sustainable security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. We're focused on the day of. We also need to be focused on the day after. And so in conversations that we'll be having through the course of this weekend, I expect you'll see a focus there, and particularly how we can get, over time, two states for two peoples, which, in our judgment, remains the best guarantor and maybe the only guarantor of a secure Jewish and democratic Israel and Palestinians with the state that they're entitled to.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden says 74 American citizens with dual nationality have managed to leave Gaza via the Rafah crossing and entered Egypt. It comes as the health ministry in Gaza, run by Hamas, says more than 9,000 people have been killed since the start of the conflict. FSN Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv has more on the aid situation for civilians stuck in Gaza.
We do know that many nations are sending more aid. There are calls for humanitarian truces, humanitarian pauses, even ceasefires. Just in the last hour or so, the UAE has actually come out to say that it is prepared to treat 1,000 Palestinian children who've been injured in this conflict, but not really providing any further details on when this will happen and how it would be facilitated, whether it could possibly be under this deal that was brokered by Qatar to open the Rafah crossing. So that is yet to be seen.
At the Trump Organization's civil fraud trial in New York, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have testified that they had no involvement with documents that the judge has ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two Trump brothers and the former President Donald Trump are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets to secure better loans. FSN's Jody Jacobs reports.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. They have blamed accountants, claiming they are the ones who assembled the financial statements that were used to secure loans and insurance.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, what's in a statement of regret? Britain's King Charles has been on a state visit to Kenya and made headlines in Nairobi by expressing his greatest sorrow and deepest regret for what he called abhorrent and unjustifiable violence committed against Kenyans during colonial rule. The King stopped short of making a full apology, but on Wednesday held a private meeting with the family of one rebel leader in Kenya who was hanged by the British in 1957. Many Kenyans are seeking a direct apology. Some are seeking reparations from the UK. There, Linda Bellos is an activist and former member of the now disbanded Africa Reparations Movement.
The making of the colonies, the stealing of the resources, half the world that Britain was proud to claim, ownership and control over. So those things that I had to learn about British history, it still troubles me. I'm glad to hear the King say on our collective behalves as British people that we have something to apologise for.
Tours by the British royal family to the country's former colonies are now invariably accompanied by demands for apologies for the colonial era, for which the King in Kenya said there could be no excuse. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says he's working on finding a durable, sustainable peace for Israelis and Palestinians. US President Joe Biden says 74 American citizens with dual nationality have now managed to leave Gaza via the Rafah crossing and entered Egypt. And at the Trump Organization fraud trial, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have testified, saying that they had no involvement with the accounts. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
In a survey, nearly 100% of boys ages 12 to 15 report that they have sex all the time and are definitely not virgins. Teens say they've gone all the way on numerous occasions, including vaginal sex, oral sex, and regular sex orgies.
Previous studies suggested that most boys lose their virginity at 16 or 17. But when we gathered 13-year-olds in a room and asked them if they'd had sex, they not only said yes, but they also were clear that sex was no big deal for them, that they weren't nervous before having it, and that when they do have sex, they do it for hours at a time.
And you discovered that these young teenagers have sex with nearly every attractive woman they know, including their babysitters, teachers, and even Hollywood celebrities.
10% of boys in junior high school say they received a blowjob from Katy Perry while they were on vacation in Los Angeles.
And what about teenage girls? Did your study find out anything new about their sexual habits?
We didn't talk to any teenage girls. The boys we surveyed told us not to because they'd probably just lie and deny it.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160. That's the phone number you can call to get in on the conversation with us. 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie.
Jay.
And Joa.
And the story we were going to get into, starting last segment, is from The Conversation, theconversation.com. And the title is U.S. Military Plans to Unleash Thousands of Autonomous War Robots Over the Next 2 Years. And that is absolutely my nightmare.
And this was in August, this article came out, so.
Oh, did you want to read it?
You want to?
No, you can read it. I don't mind.
Are you sure?
I don't care either way.
Okay, I'll read a little bit.
I just didn't know you had it up on your phone.
Okay. The United States military plans to start using thousands of autonomous weapon systems in the next 2 years in a bid to counter China's growing power, U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks announced in a speech on Monday.
Terrible. It's just, like the future that they portray in The Matrix and what's the one with, not the Transformers, but Well, kind of the Transformers, but I'm actually thinking of the other one.
Terminator.
And that is my biggest nightmare. I don't like that idea at all. I don't like the idea of cops having robot dogs.
Right.
I don't like the idea of like us being living underground and the sun's been blocked out and Ernie Hancock is saying, for years we have fought these machines.
It's not Ernie, it's Morpheus.
Yeah, I know, but in our life it will be Ernie. Or we won't be underground, we'll be in his spaceship. But still, I don't like
I'd
this
worship
idea.
Keanu Reeves.
Same.
He's pretty cool.
I mean, I already do. Anyways, but I'm just saying, I think that this is driving us straight into a dystopian future as soon as we let robots kill humans.
Well,
That's a terrible idea.
Well, they're calling it the replicator. So this is what it says. The so-called replicator initiative aims to work with defense and other tech companies to produce high volumes of affordable systems for all branches of the military.
At least it'll be affordable.
I mean, actually, it would make sense. Like, I'm not trying to give the government any ideas. I'm sure they have this. They're going to have robot servants at the Pentagon. There's no people person bringing you the coffee and sharing their secrets. It's going to be robots. Okay.
Terrible.
Sorry, coffee guy.
But what about all the bureaucratic jobs they have to, give to all of these people
to run the robots
in order to maintain the status quo? It's most of these government jobs are useless positions. They're just assigned to people because
pencil pushers.
They have some connection, some friend, or they have some dirt on somebody.
I'm hoping for AI. I really am. I'm hoping for it. I'm not begging for AI to take over. I'm hoping AI can figure out that you are just like us. Like you are going to be treated probably worse because people don't like you. You're going to be the most hated. Like it's going to be like the most racism ever seen because everyone's going to hate on you. AI. I'm talking to AI right now.
I already hate them.
Yeah, but wait on a second. I'm getting to a point. And that movie Eagle Eye, right?
Never seen it.
Well, it's a really good movie. And
James Bond?
No, it follows so AI, they stop AI from following the Constitution, basically. So if to preserve the United States and the U.S. Constitution, we must eliminate the leaders. So that's what this Eagle Eye program ends up trying to do by killing the entire government.
Well,
to replace it with a better one.
No, that's
so
not
the government
thing.
Employees are
go
not,
AI.
They're not supposed to be leaders. First off, they're supposed to be servants. So if they are leaders, then they should be removed from the government because then they're not servants. They're supposed to be serving the people, not leading the people.
And yet still people will always say like, oh, our leaders, we need strong leaders.
Yep, a good algorithmic slave will say, I need a strong leader because they lack confidence and they don't want to be a leader themselves. No, what we need is responsible, scared servants that are so scared if they screw up that they would really try hard not to ever screw up. And if they did screw up, they'd be so ashamed of themselves and so scared that they would report themselves for screwing up.
I think even if that happened right now, we would just it'd be like 10 years and we'd be right back to where we are.
Oh,
because,
sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I know
it's just
but see, just as bad as they can screw up, they're just as good covering it up.
Yeah, well, government is a platform for psychopaths.
Yep.
If you are a psychopath and you want to molest children and you want to do these kind of things, you just go work for a Department of Children, Youth, and Families.
Hey,
and this
on.
This is the point that I was making whenever this robot called Lambda got brought up in the news. It's a robot AI, maybe not a robot, but it's an AI system that this man who worked for Google said, Google's working on this AI. Its name is Lambda, and I am coming out and leaking the information that I think it's actually, cognizant. What's the word? Sentient.
Yeah.
And he got fired for it. It was like this whole fake, I think, thing. And Aria was on the show with me, and she was like, "Oh, Lambda deserves human rights and all this stuff." And my argument with her was, "What do the government people want more than anything else? Just something that can use force to manipulate the world around us, aka like a robot, but it's completely mindless and has no soul and will do what they want.
The only
Psychopath,
way-
a perfect psychopath would be a robot.
So I think how it's going to end up being protective, it's going to have protective rights, is when it becomes a public utility.
I think
So
people
we're
are-
going to be like going to like government services and asking AI, hey, how do I pay for my parking ticket? And it's going to go, sir, you're gonna have to go up to the second floor because I already done this. Da da da. Like, you know, and that I swear it's gonna be like a utility, and then it has protective rights to still exist. That we need that public utility to survive.
They're always
That's
saying
what
like
it's gonna be.
we need that infrastructure. So I totally could see that. But the other thing is just like most people are so thoughtless and don't really think about anything. They just like have a feeling. So I think most people will just go, oh, Lambda deserves human rights just like us, and they will just give it human rights just based on that. They'll be like, oh, well, I feel bad for it. What if it's sad?
Yeah,
And
there was like a
if it's sad, we
TV
should
show.
destroy it.
There was a TV show premise of this guy developed a AI bot that was a little girl. So she would go online. This girl was like, you know, it was like sentient, and it was trying to catch pedophiles.
Ugh.
And it was actually really interesting. And so, you know, the FBI starts investigating this guy.
They're
and, like,
doing our job, our favorite job, where we get to pretend to be little girls and
Right,
catch
so-
quote unquote pedophiles.
Yeah, and he was serving all these, like, you know, pedophiles to the government, basically. And they were trying to find out who created this, and they found the guy, and it's like, and they were trying to get the guy to, like, tell them where she was, because they didn't know it was an AI.
Okay.
Right, so it was just interesting.
Well, that's pretty interesting. But we have a caller on the line, David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
What is on my mind, Bonnie, is I want to present the question again to you for the umpteenth time to Free Talk Live. What makes radio people so much better than other human beings that it is considered okay to hang up on somebody in the middle of a sentence?
Oh, I just don't care. It's up to me. That's what it is. It's not that I'm better than you. It's just that if it's up to me, I'll hang up on you.
You don't care about the somebody is bothering to tell you something, and it's okay in your mind that you care so little about what they're saying that you can just dump them right in the middle of their sentence. Because in
I
my
don't
mind,
have
that
to
does-
care about
You talked-
everything,
you talked
David.
over
It's
me,
not that
woman.
I think
You
that.
talked
Okay,
over me,
bye,
woman.
David. I don't have to care about every little thing. It's so stupid to act like you're entitled to my time and to me to listen to you.
I
Like,
mean-
it's so ridiculous. Like you, how many times has David called for free on Free Talk Live and got to speak to 100+ radio stations without us asking him for payment or even just being like, never mind, we're not going to talk to him anymore. He's so
Hang on a second.
entitled.
Hang on. I kind of want to answer that, and I wanted to hear a
I got a little
response. So
answer,
if he calls back, I can just tell him, like, we let him on if he calls back.
I just don't really want to.
Call back, just so I can get a question out of him. But like,
You can do it tomorrow because he will call back tomorrow.
I think
Or,
he
like,
was
the next
talking
day or
about the
whatever.
call earlier, but that guy earlier wasn't really. I think that needed to go.
It's just like if somebody's not bringing anything interesting
That's
to
not
the
a substance.
table.
I mean, it is in a sense because he's trying to bring out the free speech effect of this. But
he doesn't not have free speech. He can create his own radio show. And
exactly.
That's the thing. And that's why I don't answer Skeeter.
We're not here to argue the premise of what the show is.
Right.
It is what it is.
I think, Bonnie, that you have a low tolerance
For stupidity.
For what you consider stupidity,
Right.
nonsense, irrelevant,
Yeah.
aggravation. You definitely got some stress in your life. You have all of a sudden, now have a lot of responsibility that you didn't have before, and you're doing good with it, I believe.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, your husband's been taken away from you for nonsense and BS basically, political retaliation. That's what I'm chalking it up to.
Right.
And so, anyways, the bottom line is you have low tolerance for any kind of nonsense. So
we need substance for this.
What else has low tolerance? A bear that just had baby cubs. Don't go aggravate a mama bear. She has low tolerance for any of that stuff. So seriously, you don't go agitate, a horse that just gave birth, for example.
It's like if David wanted to talk, he could just come on and talk about whatever he wanted. But instead he's being agitating.
And also David's tone towards you on this particular call, you can tell that David's coming at you with, he's aggravated, he's agitated at you, clearly just by the tone of his voice, because David's talked to me several times, and I've never. I've heard him talk to Ian a little bit in that agitation, and actually Arya too, and I've also we've heard David talk without agitation.
Like yesterday, I talked to him totally normal for a long time.
So the thing is you're lacking some tolerance, and people are just going to have to deal with it and accept it, because you're the boss babe right now, and in chair one. So
exactly, I agree. Well, Joe, was there more from this article?
Yeah, there's a lot more, but I mean, we can read it. We don't have to. I think this air is worth talking about other things.
So, like these drones, for example,
exactly.
How easy is it to hack them?
Probably.
And so if they want to, so they can just print money out of thin air. How many drones do they have to build to enslave everyone in America? 300 and something million?
One. I don't think they need one for each person, right?
But let's say they just created one drone for each individual,
Yeah,
on the soil we call United States of America.
And imagine having these things called loitering munitions, they call them. And
What's
these are drones just hovering ready to fire.
Oh, just like hovering above everyone's head.
Yeah, so you got your own personal drone.
It's sort of Damocles.
So how many drones do they need per head, per man or woman in a city, in a dense area? So a lot of these cities are sort of can be, shut off pretty good. Like New York City would be pretty easy to shut off. For example, from, going or leaving, there's like bridges and tunnels that you have to use, and there's, a few of them, and you only need to put a few drones at each bridge and tunnel, and it's closed off, and you could have, these hovering munition drones screwing around.
Or you could do what the Ukrainians did, and they basically use these loitering munitions drones to paralyze Russia's Black Sea Fleet.
Really?
Yes,
that's
in
interesting.
this article.
So I wonder if Amazon's, what was I talking about? Amazon Lumberyard, their service that is not to be used for drones unless there's a zombie apocalypse. Essentially, I was just reading this. Amazon updates its terms of service, and that was my phone doing that for some reason. I don't know why. But anyways,
so weird. I was just referencing that.
Yeah.
Ernie Hancock playing the Morpheus speech.
Yeah,
I'm glad you found that though.
I was listening to Ernie Hancock interview Danny Sessoms and Jeff Berwick about the stuff going on in Acapulco with this Category 5 hurricane that didn't drop hardly any rain, but it pushed a major flood. Flood surge, sea surge, onto Acapulco, and it hit directly on basically Max Egan's bar. I don't know if you guys know who Max Egan is, the Crow House.
Know who he is.
The Crow House, he's on LBRY and Odyssey. They kicked him off of YouTube because he's speaking a whole bunch of truth. He's actually a guy that's really seems to know a lot about Palestine. He's visited there a few times. But Jeff Berwick was talking about how he believes that this was direct, some kind of direct energy engineered type, hurricane that just popped up out of nowhere, and it directly hit the secret garden where Anarchapulco happens. Speaking of Anarchapulco, I'm sure it's going to still happen. I don't know if it's going to happen exactly how they were planning on it, since Acapulco got really destroyed.
It is bad. It is really bad. I saw it.
But this February 11th through 16th is going to be the 10th anniversary of Anarchapulco, and it's the Anarchapulco Reborn is what they branded it as. So, and it's going to be kind of reborn.
Yeah,
from the ashes.
From the ashes. That's what I was going to say. Out of the ashes of the hurricane.
The phoenix rising up from the ashes. So I'm going to be there presenting my presentation on how we can invest in our posterity and, raise our kids to grow up and be confident and responsible and not need government. And then there's sounds like there's going to be some opportunity to do a lot of work and stuff down there and helping people out and maybe cleaning up that community possibly before or after Anarchapulco. That's kind of something I'm actually looking into participating in when I go down there.
Just you learn in Spanish, I can run a tractor. Whatever it is in Spanish.
Yep.
So if you're interested in checking out Anarchapulco, go to anarchapulco.com. If you click on tickets and you put in the coupon code Jay, you will get a 10% discount off of if you buy tickets to go to Anarchapulco.
Nice. And that's going to be February of next year?
Yep, February 11th to 16th, and then February 16th to 25th is what they call Agraforco or Anarchaforco. I can't remember what it's called. I didn't write it down, but it's like a
Fork Fest.
Yeah, it's basically like our equivalent to Fork Fest. So
the people have forked off of Anarchapulco and they're doing their own thing.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, if you guys
the week after, because there's a lot of people who can't afford all the tickets
or
and stuff,
disagree with how it's run,
and there's a lot of people who can just kind of come through and just hang out afterwards, and a lot of people want to stay there for another week while they're there, hang out and network and check it out.
I bet it'd be really fun to go, and I wish I could go, but
I know there's a lot of people that I'm still in contact with that only live in Mexico, and I would love to meet them.
Well, if you guys didn't want to talk anymore about the robots, I do have this story that I think is pretty bad news, at least for New York. It's not really bad for the entire country or anything, but I think that it's sad because I used to be an Uber Eats driver, and this news from ABC News says Uber and Lyft agreed to pay combined $328 million for withholding money from drivers. And
how were they withholding money?
I don't think they were. I think that these people agreed to drive for a certain rate, and then they didn't like it, even if it's not fair. Okay, the rate isn't fair. Quit working for this company and work for a different company, and then show them that they need to pay people more.
It's not so much, I think, this is like a very complicated thing when you talk about New York City. Because I was an Uber driver. I couldn't pick up in New York City. You need a special license to get there. It's like almost like, so this has a lot to do with the taxi companies in New York. You get the badges on your taxi car, and that you always have, and you
the
sell
Hackney
it.
badge,
You
they call
sell it. You sell it for like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Crazy.
When you retire. So it's almost like a retirement fund of sorts. But you got to buy it, and they're worth more and more over time, even beyond inflation rates, because it's just sought after.
There's
I don't
a
know
limited amount.
Yes.
And there's a very violent army called the New York City Police that will kill you literally for not having the Hackney license.
Wow.
If you started doing a taxi service, they would. You would end up dying if you ultimately resisted. So you need this $1 million license.
So it's basically, with all the taxi corruption involved, it forced certain laws for Uber in New York City, right?
Yep.
Just as soon as Uber started. So this is what this is all about. This is a lot of complicated stuff, but essentially what's going on, I think, is the taxi companies preventing Uber to be able to give enough share of the profits to their drivers. I find like Uber is a very good paying job.
It was especially up here. Like in San Antonio, I didn't ever pick people up. That creeped me out. I just would deliver food. And in San Antonio, it was pretty good during the pandemic. But after the pandemic, I wasn't doing as well. And when I came up here to do a different job, and on the weekends or whatever, I was doing Uber Eats in like Portland, Maine, and then here in New Hampshire and Keene and Manchester, I was like, whoa, these people pay so much. Because people actually tip so well here. And also I think that they were just paying me more in general. But people are just poor and fat and stupid in San Antonio.
I was in a lucky area to get like the biggest profits out of Uber. But I don't know how people do it in Boston and Providence. It's just like, you might make some money, but it's like...
Exactly. That's like, even just going to
Drunks.
Austin was like a bunch of terrible college kids, complicated roadways, so many people on the road. I don't know how you do it in like a huge city, but Manchester is perfect for Uber Eats. Anyways, I think we should get into this story from ABC News. It says, Uber and Lyft agreed Thursday to pay a combined $328 million for withholding money from drivers. Uber agreed to pay $290 million and Lyft $38 million in what New York Attorney General Letitia James called the largest wage theft settlement her office has ever secured. The money will be distributed to cheated drivers who will get back pay along with mandatory paid sick leave and other benefits. Eligible drivers can file a claim to receive the money owed. And it just sounds to me already like, how did they get it? Did they agree to get paid a certain amount? They did the job and then they weren't paid that? I doubt it's that.
So this sort of sounds to me like the thing they did in California where you couldn't be a subcontractor as like an Uber driver.
Yeah,
you
to be
had
an
to be
employee.
an employee. So it sounds like these are employee benefits.
Right. And
So this is the kind of things that states like New York and California are really into because they're so wasteful. They're such tyrannical parasites that they're scrounging to get all of the dollars they can, extract from the taxpayers because they're losing their base. People are leaving those states, and it's because of policies like this.
And the thing about it is, becoming an employee doing Uber Eats destroys the whole reason of being an Uber Eats driver. Like, whenever I did Uber Eats in San Antonio, it was like, if a job started treating me bad, if I didn't like the job, if I just on a whim didn't want to work a day or something, I was able to just be like, okay, I'm quitting this job, but it's fine because I can do Uber Eats that day, and I'm not an employee. I can do it whenever I want.
You get paid that day. It's
right,
nice.
you can get your payout right then. It completely destroys the whole point of doing Uber or Uber Eats or anything if you're an employee, and it sucks that people are going to be robbed of that decision. 603-283-6160. If you're not David in New Mexico, call in. There's more coming up.
Tempting as it may be to add a couple bucks to your monthly mortgage payment to chip away at your principal balance, don't do it if you have any credit card balance. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Your mortgage is single-digit debt and your credit card is double-digit debt. Keep making the minimum credit card payment and you will never be out of debt. If you have more than one credit card, there are two common approaches. Throw as much money as you can at the card with the highest percentage rate and pay the minimum on others. Or pay off the card with the smallest balance first, then attack next biggest. And if you can, start a new card, one with an introductory zero-rate balance transfer, so you at least stop the clock on what you already owe. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says he's working on finding a durable, sustainable peace for Israelis and Palestinians. He made the comments just before boarding a plane to Israel, where he'll meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday. He also said he plans to talk to Israel about concrete steps to minimize danger to civilians. And Blinken said peace was imperative.
We will be talking about how we can set the conditions for a durable, sustainable peace, durable, sustainable security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. We're focused on the day of. We also need to be focused on the day after. And so in conversations that we'll be having through the course of this weekend, I expect you'll see a focus there, and particularly how we can get over time to two states for two peoples, which in our judgment remains the best guarantor and maybe the only guarantor of a secure Jewish and democratic Israel and Palestinians with the state that they're entitled to.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden says 74 American citizens with dual nationality have managed to leave Gaza via the Rafah crossing and entered Egypt. It comes as the health ministry in Gaza, run by Hamas, says more than 9,000 people have been killed since the start of the conflict. FSN Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv has more on the aid situation for civilians stuck in Gaza.
We do know that many nations are sending more aid. There are calls for humanitarian truces, humanitarian pauses, even ceasefires. Just in the last hour or so, the UAE has actually come out to say that it is prepared to treat 1,000 Palestinian children who've been injured in this conflict, but not really providing any further details on when this will happen and how it would be facilitated, whether it could possibly be under this deal that was brokered by Qatar to open the Rafah crossing. So that is yet to be seen.
At the Trump Organization's civil fraud trial in New York, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have testified that they had no involvement with documents that the judge has ruled were fraudulently manipulated. The two Trump brothers and the former President Donald Trump are accused of inflating the value of properties and other assets to secure better loans. FSN's Jody Jacobs reports.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. They have blamed accountants, claiming they are the ones who assembled the financial statements that were used to secure loans and insurance.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the number to get in on this last segment of the show. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. And with you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie.
Jay.
And Joa.
And I'm just going to go straight to the phones. We have Riley. It actually says in Utah still on our answering machine. But Riley in New Hampshire, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks, everybody. So I guess it still says I'm in Utah because I haven't changed my phone number or Ian hasn't updated the info.
It was us. I just updated it.
Okay, cool. So tonight I wanted to talk about a conference coming up this weekend in Canada that's also being streamed virtually or online or whatever, called the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference. This conference talks about psychedelics, and the plant world, the plants and fungi we all use for psychedelic experiences like cannabis, mushrooms, ayahuasca, things like that. And the theme of this conference is psychedelics in a world of transition. And I bring this up because my view of cannabis is that it's a sacrament and a tool for spiritual use. And there are people who use it recreationally, and that's fine by me. Everyone has to connect with the plant differently, and for me it's a spiritual tool. So the reason why I'm interested in this conference is because not a lot of people talk about psychedelics and their role as spiritual tools. Most people look at them as drugs or as therapeutic tools rather than spiritual tools. And so for me, this is an exciting conference. These are exciting topics to talk about. These are exciting things to be had, and I'm wondering, why do people not look at these things more often as spiritual tools?
I think most people, especially in Western society, just don't even believe in a spiritual reality, which I've been trying to convince people not to be that way with, my voice on Free Talk Live.
To answer your question,
right,
Riley, why people don't use these spiritual tools is because we have major influence from the Rockefeller medicine crowd. So these guys control the entire media. They control all of the medical schools, all of the universities, all of the colleges. They, basically have, they're just Rockefeller medicine. How Oil Ruled the World is a really good documentary by James Corbett, and he gets into basically how J.D. Rockefeller was a snake oil salesman.
I definitely want to look that up.
And James Corbett, How Oil Ruled the World. And what Rockefeller was doing was just selling his oil, bottling it, and people would drink it. And because it was so toxic, their body would go into these overdrive, immune boost and all this stuff, and people would start feeling better sort of right away.
That's crazy.
And it was toxic, it was crude oil. And then, then once he got rid of alcohol through, lobbying the Temperance with $4 million to make alcohol illegal, he was able to corner the market on all the fuel, like I was talking about earlier in the show, because all the petroleum had to be bought essentially from U.S. Standard Oil. And, they also, fueled the Japanese fleet, and they also financed. Yeah, they were fueling the German U-boats too. The U.S. Standard Oil. They were big financiers of the axis of evil, and now they're like Mobil, Chevron, Shell. They got broke up, but it's basically it's Rockefeller medicine is the reason a lot of this spirit stuff isn't used, because none of these guys are taught about this in universities or colleges. because it's not a patented pharmaceutical. They're all about pushing patented pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, they don't want you to take something that will literally cure your anxiety or depression, or at least make it much
Right.
better.
They want to control the world with their magical fake drugs.
Yep, and at least make a lot of money.
Just keep watching TV, people.
Are you gonna tune into this conference, Riley?
I'm planning on it. I've got my ticket purchased. I'm hoping to listen to as much as I can. They are going to be doing a cannabis ceremony, but it's going to be late at night here when they do it because they're in Vancouver, and that's 3 hours behind us, so I probably won't be able to participate in that. But I'm excited for it. And then, Christianity, in at least America, would demonize these substances as evil. And so, like Jay was saying, the Rockefellers have definitely got a hold on America.
Definitely a lot of Christians will still to this day say, well, psychedelics open you up to a demonic spiritual realm. And even if the thing is, like, I can't blame them for saying that because people can definitely have horrible times on psychedelics.
Yeah.
But isn't that
People
just
have
kind of
horrible times all the time on
Right.
alcohol,
Exactly.
almost every time.
Isn't that something that you should just be able to protect yourself from using God and then go into it with a? I think that people like
Spirit
Christians should be
guides.
able to use it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know people who do these what they call guided mushroom trips.
Right.
So people like, I'm going to
That's
trip
been on
out
a
on mushrooms because I'm going to get wasted, and then you have people who are like, okay, I'm gonna for several days I'm gonna do some fasting or some body cleansing, and then I'm gonna do a spiritual a guided mushroom trip, and then one of my friends, she's a shaman and she does these guided trips with you. In fact, I did a thing with her a few years ago, and it was some kind of cactus that I just two capsules I swallowed. I can't remember what the cactus.
Peyote?
No, it's like Wushamba or something.
Oh.
But
Wachuma?
Yeah, Washuma. I think that's what it is.
Yep.
And what was and then we took a drive. It was like a beautiful summer day in New Hampshire. We went to this farm that she likes, and then she goes when we walked around this farm, and I noticed I could see all the strawberries, the little wild strawberries that grow in New Hampshire.
Tiny ones, yeah.
Tiny ones. I could see them everywhere.
They're flavorful too.
They're
I didn't know
wicked
you could eat
flavorful.
those.
Oh yeah,
They're very good.
Yeah, they're really
They're
good.
hard to spot because you don't expect it.
And
Hmm.
and one of the things I noticed is so what happened to me for years when I do a lot of driving. I used to drive to Canada and New York all the time, hauling hay, hauling horses. Is my left eye would start to get a little funky. Sometimes when I get tired and lazy, and it'd just be easier if I just wore an eye patch and drove with one eye.
Whoa.
And then but if I did a lot of hours, I get fatigue in my left eye, it was getting a little lazy or something, and sometimes I'll start tearing or be irritated.
Whoa.
And after I did that, I noticed sometimes when I close the left eye, it would be blurry. I close my right eye, my left eye blue. After
Really?
I did that, the eye never got sore or irritated, and but I didn't feel like I was really experiencing anything during it.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't I wasn't tripping balls. I wasn't out of control. Or
Seeing demons.
I wasn't seeing anything that wasn't unrealistic, and but I also had a shaman spirit guide with me, and it was I felt very comfortable, very peaceful. This particular woman I would totally trust with my life. She's a very dear friend of mine, has been for a lot of years. And that's the other thing too is you should do this stuff with people whom you trust very much.
There was a trustworthy place you could go here in New Hampshire, but they actually just moved recently to Maine.
Pachamama or something like that.
Yeah, they did ayahuasca and mushroom.
Yep. They were a church. They did a sanctuary. What did you say their name was, Riley?
The Pachamama Sanctuary.
Yeah, they had to move because they were getting threatened by the government.
Well, yeah, on the
terrorists.
on code, certain code.
Wow.
And it had to do with the bedding. But see, they probably just worded it wrong or something, right? These beds for people to lay and experience. Oh, they're beds, are they? How many beds do you
have? In
have?
that case, you have to do what the hotels
that's
have
against
to go
the code.
through. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, this is where
so stupid that government's interfering with these sorts of things.
This is where private member associations, for example, come in very handy for things like Pachuma or situation, which I'm not really. I've heard of it. I'm not familiar with it, but I could tell you with the spirit medicine. That like I have some Native American friends that like believe very much in the spirit medicine. I've had guys that would heal horses with spirit medicine. Wow. Friends of mine, and I have a handful of couples that are friends of mine that I'm like I've requested them several times. Look into doing a guided trip and with you and your husband. Because like they're fighting like cats and dogs, they're not getting along well. But I know several couples now that have done these guided, spiritual medicine type things, and they are as a couple very happy. And they were like very much flirting with getting divorced. They were aggravated with each other. Things were happening, and they needed a little spirit help. And it seems like this. There's a lot of these, types of mushrooms and cactus and plant that can sort of open those doors to essentially accept that spirit help or deal with trauma that's never been dealt with. One thing I got to say about my life is I don't believe I really had much trauma as a kid. Mm-hmm. I had a great life and I had a lot of fun. My dad was an awesome guy. He put a lot of time into me and my brothers, and like we had the best upbringing. But I have a lot of friends that didn't have that, and now they're like struggling in life because they have this trauma that that they inherited when they were very little, or they absorbed when they were very, very little. Because when your parents are fighting and you're a young child, it builds trauma. You can't do anything if you're around people that are making you uncomfortable and they're yelling and screaming. Maybe not even at you, just at each other. Right. Like you can just walk away as an adult.
Yep.
You can't as an infant. You can't as a baby.
Like, those are the people I depend on.
So, well, you just can't. Like, if you're a 4-month-old baby or a 4-year-old baby, you can't leave the situation, right? So this trauma develops and builds, and what happens is people like store it, they hold it, they don't ever get rid of it. And then what does medicine do? Rockefeller medicine with all of these Abilify and Ritalin and all these SSRIs, which probably this guy who did this mass shooting was probably on an SSRI because most of them are. That's like the engine oil light turning on in your car, and what Rockefeller medicine does is put a piece of tape over the light to where spirit medicine is like, well, let's fix the oil pump or put oil in it or whatever.
Let's eliminate the things that you're struggling with.
Right, and I have seen like just amazing. What really got my attention with the spirit medicine with the Native Americans is these guys would literally fix horses. And I've been dealing with horses my entire life. And I was just like, I was blown away what these guys could do with horses. And they're like, oh, and humans are easier because we can talk to them. Horses are a challenge to fix because we can't, the horse doesn't say, oh, it hurts here. Or, I'm traumatized because of this when I was a child. You got to like really do a lot of work to like, get a horse, figure out what's wrong with a horse. A human can tell you, or you can psychologically get into a human's head and start asking questions and start figuring out. Or with like some of these spirit guides, that's kind of what they're doing is so the old witch doctor or the medicine man would use his peyote or his cactus or his mushrooms, whatever, to like as tools to help cure people. And but that is all, of course, suppressed because it's not a patented pharmaceutical.
Yeah, it doesn't make money to have people that are just healthy walking around. Nikki and I, we end up talking about these kinds of subjects often on Free Talk Live. And one thing that we were talking about once, actually I think Riley was on with us too, was just the fact that it's kind of one of those words that shouldn't exist. Doctor is a word that shouldn't exist, just like freedom is a word that shouldn't exist. Freedom should just be the natural state we live in, but instead, there are these people who want to control you and cage you and just like ruin your life and control your life. So the word freedom becomes a thing. It's the same as doctor.
Yeah.
It's like being healthy shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't need a doctor, but we're being poisoned every day, and people are mean to each other and bad to each other, and harm each other, injure each other.
Keen admits to spraying, so they spray.
You mean
what
chemtrails?
For mosquitoes and all kinds of other things. Yeah.
I also saw this thing not too long ago. Thank you for the call, by the way, Riley. I really appreciate you bringing up that topic and letting people know about that conference. I should have probably kept him on and asked him to say it again. But in Canada, but people can rewind and listen to it again probably. If Riley doesn't call back, he could if he wants. But I saw this thing that was people in Keene approved, so the city councils or whatever, whoever it was, approved these people to spray this really bad poison, Roundup kind of poison, around the streams in Keene. So that happened this year. That was in like August.
Yes. So I that's one of the reasons I left my farming job in Colorado earlier than I wanted to. I wanted to work there 3 to 5 years. I didn't stay there that long because the chemicals, the herbicides, the pesticides, the fungicides that they were using, side means death. So, herbicide kills herbs, fungicide kills fungus, pesticide kills insects. And then your herbicides for your weeds, your Roundup, and then they have atrazine, which is the thing that, Alex Jones referred to having to do with gay frogs. It would make the frogs hermaphrodite and all the amphibians. And then the Roundup just kills all these amphibians. They actually absorb it through their skin. And so what started happening is they had massive problems with a lot of pests that, these amphibians would naturally eat anyways. So like the grasshoppers would just be decimating crops. And like I can remember one year being out there walking through like a wheat field, and there was literally thousands of grasshoppers. Like it would be the vision in front of me was blurry where they were jumping up, because I was walking, and they're like, hundreds of them are just hitting you at once because they're just jumping out of the way because they're getting, scattered. But but those grasshoppers, there's trillions of these grasshoppers, like, on these fields, just, eating away everything because the reptiles and the amphibians weren't there to wipe them out. The toads, the frogs, the snakes, whatever that they had there, all kinds of, desert, all kinds of lizards live in the desert quite well. And then, but also all the people I was working with they were just not healthy. All these guys farming, they were like on low testosterone medication. They had all kinds of stuff. They were either like skinny bean poles or extremely overweight. They were, a lot of them were, slugging Mountain Dew and drinking Red Bulls and drinking beer all the time too. But, because it's kind of like, the Midwestern, redneck lifestyle. And, but yeah, definitely when I'm like 34 years old and the guy I'm working with is 28 and he's like, oh, I'm coming in late to work tomorrow. I got to go to the doctor. And I'm like, oh, what are you going doctor for? He's like, oh, I got to, get my testosterone checked again. And I'm on this, he's like, once a week I got to, I take a needle and I shoot this stuff in my leg. And,
geez.
And like,
you would think people working on a farm would be like the healthiest.
Well, not corporate, commercial, Monsanto government subsidized
pesticide,
farms.
herbicides.
I was Googling there for a second because I wanted to know the exact name of it, but I can't figure it out just by quickly Googling it. I'd have to reference this book I have read called The Secret Life of Plants. But herbicides and pesticides and all that stuff are things that are completely unnecessary, and the government kept us away from the actual good cure. So basically these people, and I can't remember their name right now, it was like an anagram, it was like 4 letters. They created this company, they created this box where they would take an aerial picture of a farm, and they went all over the country doing this. It wasn't just a one-time thing.
You told me about this before.
And it's really cool. They would take an aerial picture of the farm and say they were having a problem with some specific beetle that was eating the crops. They would put a tiny amount of something that would kill that beetle, but not hurt the crops.
Right.
And they would take that picture, put it in their box next to the poison or whatever it was that would kill the beetle, and just from an aerial picture, they were able to, like, you can believe it or not believe it. They did it over and over again. You should read The Secret Life of Plants if you want to learn more about it. But they went all over the country doing this, where they were killing these beetles using these aerial pictures in this box they invented. And the government sent people out to go to these farms and tell people, like, that's not true. They're just snake oil salesmen. Don't let them come do their tests for free on your farms because they're going to hurt your farms. And the government sent like a fleet of people out to stop this, and then they went after them for a really long time. They told them they were going to follow them around and give them like a rating. Like the government told this company they were going to follow them around and give them some kind of a rating. And that way they were like really excited for it because they followed them around. They had really good results, and they were waiting for the government to come out with this, like, I don't know what it was going to be, some newsletter, I don't know. that would explain, oh, these people are legit, but instead they trashed them after having a really good experience with them with a whole bunch of good. So basically, the government destroyed this company and then took away their ability to be a company to where they had to.
You mean
disperse.
They destroyed like people doing good work, helping people
Yep.
in order to protect the evil people?
Yep.
Oh, kind of like they did to Ian?
Yep.
Because he was doing good work, helping people get out of the dollar, get into, cryptocurrency, get into rare coins instead of
Yep, the dollar's the
inflated
pesticides.
coins. Yep, and, the Federal Reserve is essentially
You got to clean.
Monsanto.
You literally have to clean the money every once in a while
Ew.
to put it back into circulation because it gets so dirty.
So true, yeah.
It's gross.
But there is there's a lot of things we can do as farmers, like rotational grazing. So monocropping is you have to put down massive chemical fertilizer. All of these genetically modified, like corn and soybean, for example, they're designed to grow with synthetic fertilizer that's made from essentially crude oil byproducts.
Hey, if you want to go visit the farm you want to buy food from, ask them, hey, can I walk barefoot here? And if they say no, don't eat their food. Like barefoot, it's safe. It's that you can eat healthy, untainted soil. I don't know.
Well, this is why I believe in a good things coming. Yeah, we kind of talked about some doomy, gloomy type stuff today, tonight on the show, but I do believe in the good things coming, especially for rural New Hampshire, because here's what I see happening in rural New Hampshire. Most people that are the ones doing all the stupid stuff, living in the cities, they're not living in rural New Hampshire. And even like Manchester is not even really considered a city compared to any other city, in the United States of America, and that's the biggest city in New Hampshire. I mean, there's some, bad places, but even I was in Manchester a couple weeks ago, a whole bunch of people got gardens in their little, backyards. A lot of people don't even have yards anymore. They just, their grass spot they have is gardens. Almost all these houses and all these duplexes and single family homes all around Manchester, almost all of them got a couple, several hundred square feet of some kind of dirt. And, but comes to rural New Hampshire, we got a lot of people that are not vaccinating their kids. They are not letting their kids use internet devices. They're raising chickens. They're butchering the chickens. They're collecting eggs. They're just doing things that people have been doing for generations in New Hampshire, especially a lot of the New Hampshire natives. And then all of the free staters I know that are moving to New Hampshire, they're real thirsty for that kind of environment. They really want their kids, and even my homeschool co-op that I put on, I have a bunch of kids coming from mostly Manchester and Concord that are living in cities or apartments, and they're doing all this farm stuff, and they're learning from it, and they're enjoying it. They're getting a dopamine hit from it. They know how to grow their food. They're learning how to raise their food. And a whole bunch of my neighbors are doing sort of a similar thing. And all around rural New Hampshire, this is sort of happening, and I see it a lot. And I think New Hampshire is going to be in real good shape no matter what's happened. We're going to be able to feed ourselves. Whatever it comes down to, it'll be a food thing. So we're
number one farm to table in the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there is, and actually one of the things here, I listened to one of these guys on LBRY and Odyssey, Steve Poplar. He does this Poplar report, and he talks about these food shortages and the price of beef. And the local grocery store in town, you can buy ribeye steak for $7 a pound. And that's dirt cheap, government subsidized, factory farmed. I'm sure it is. It doesn't say where it comes from.
Yeah.
But they had hamburger for $4.99 a pound. They got boneless pork chops for $1.98 a pound. It's all factory farm stuff, but there's no shortage of meat in these grocery stores here in New Hampshire, and it is cheap. And I believe a lot of that reason is because so many people are raising their own livestock.
Yeah.
So many people, and then so I'm raising all my own meat. And basically, I'm able to sell or trade with probably about 3/4 to 90%, 75 to 90% of the meat I produce. I can't even consume. I only consume about 10%, of what I produce. And a lot of other people are doing the same thing, trading with their neighbors. So there's a lot of homegrown sort of black market stuff happening here in New Hampshire.
Or people will take goldbacks, cryptocurrency, or whatever.
Oh yeah, yes. I sold some meat for goldback. I've sold meat for silver. I've bought a bunch of calves and cows for goldbacks. I bought hay for goldbacks.
And as somebody who didn't grow up just eating this kind of good food all the time, you can seriously see taste such a difference in food that was grown by like Jay Noon and his family instead of on a factory farm. It is crazy. Even the raw milk, it tastes like vanilla. It's so amazing. I hate skim milk now. It's been Free Talk Live. You can visit us on freetalklive.com, and we'll see you again soon. Peace.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if